Chapter 414. There was a diamond ring in the jewelry box. It was at least 10 carats, and it was sparkling under the lights. Such a diamond ring was worth millions. But to the young director of the God Domain Corporation, it was just a drizzle. At this moment, the reporters were frantically pressing their shutters. The invited guests from the business world were also shocked. Some ladies even covered their mouths, worried that their voices would affect this romantic scene. However, the person being proposed to seemed very calm. Shinta Tianyin only glanced at the diamond ring and said indifferently, "Xiaoxian, what are you doing?" And Xiaoxian said in a very gentle voice, "Tianyin, don't you know how I feel about you? Since the first time I saw you, I have fallen deeply in love with you. We have known each other for such a long time, and I can't bear to leave you. Today, I mustered up my courage to propose to you, and I hope that you will accept me. I swear that I will love you dearly and let you be the happiest woman in the world." If it were any other woman, they would have been moved to tears when a super-rich second-generation heir like Xiaoxian proposed in such a romantic way. There was no way that they would refuse. However, Xiaoxian's proposal was to Shinta Tianyin. She had never been the kind of woman who needed someone to protect her. Shinta Tianyin didn't say anything. Her gaze suddenly shifted to Charlotte. A large group of reporters also shifted their cameras to Charlotte. Just now, there was a large group of people asking if Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin were still a couple. Now, someone proposed to Shinta Tianyin in front of Charlotte. To the reporters, such a matter was like a fly that had discovered a rotten egg. How could they not pounce on it? Click, 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 the electronic camera flashed. Charlotte also froze. He didn't expect things to develop like this. However, he understood the meaning behind Shinta Tianyin's gaze. She was forcing him to take a stand. Shinta Tianyin used to be his dream lover, an unattainable woman. Back then, he could only fantasize about being with Shinta Tianyin in his dreams. He had almost turned his dream into reality, if not for the appearance of Liang Xiao. Now, Shinta Tianyin was still single, but Liang Xiao had left him. Was he going to turn his former dream into reality? When this thought popped up in his mind, Charlotte couldn't help but think of Liang Xiao, Anina, Tang Yuyin, and Jiang Rui, as well as Shirami, who was far away in Afghanistan. His heart also hesitated, and he didn't dare to look Shinta Tianyin in the eyes. There was a flash of resentment in Xiaoxian's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. He pretended not to care that Shinta Tianyin was looking at Charlotte with eyes that made him jealous. He said softly, "Tianyin, don't you understand? If there is a man in this world who is suitable for you, it can only be me. It can't be anyone else." Shinta Tianyin still didn't speak. She was still looking at Charlotte, and there was a faint ripple in her eyes. Once, she took the initiative to pursue Charlotte, but she lost to Liang Xiao. After that, she shut herself up and vowed to let Charlotte pursue her. However, Charlotte had always maintained an ambiguous relationship with her that was more than friends, but less than lovers. Now, did she have to pursue him again? No, she was an extremely strong woman. She couldn't do it. Tianyin and Xiaoxian continued to attack. "Promise me. For you, I can give up anything, including the God Domain Corporation. After we get married, our two families will join hands, and we will definitely become the largest financial group in Asia." Shinta Tianyin sighed. "Tell me, why are you proposing to me now?" Shinta Tianyin's tone seemed to loosen a little, and Xiaoxian also seemed to see hope, and a smile appeared on his face. "I originally wanted to wait for a period of time until you accepted me. Then I would propose to you. However, Korea's election has already entered the preparatory stage. My father hopes that I have a family. This way it will also give him points. After he leaves the God Domain Corporation, I will have a better chance of entering the God Domain Corporation and controlling the overall situation." In the political and business world, it was difficult for an unmarried man to gain the approval of some elders. And Jinjian was about to participate in the election, and his son's marriage would bring two benefits. One was political, and the other was that if Xiaoxian got married, some of the elders in the God Domain Corporation would naturally have nothing to say. This would also be beneficial for the father and son to continue controlling the God Domain Corporation. From this point, it could be seen that Xiaoxian was quite honest. This world was full of political benefits and business alliances. If Xiaoxian and Tianyin got together, then Asia would undoubtedly have another massive financial group. It would also be an important marriage that could shake the business world of China and Korea. And Xiaoxian continued, Tianyin, you and I are not young anymore. Why are you still hesitating? Believe me, I will make you the happiest woman in the world. Despite Xiaoxian's passionate voice, Charlotte was still in a daze. He looked calm on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. Tianyin clearly wants me to say something, but what can I say? What do I have to say? Gu Qian suddenly kicked Charlotte's heel and said in a low voice, You rascal, say something. Don't tell me you want Xiaoxian to get Tianyin. He said it nicely, but he is a vicious wolf. Once Tianyin marries him, he will undoubtedly jump into a fire pit. Charlotte absolutely didn't want Tianyin to agree to Xiaoxian's proposal, but his heart was in a mess. He had never experienced such a thing before, so he didn't know what to say. At this time, Fu Mingmei couldn't help but come in from the door. She stuck close to Charlotte and stretched out her hand to pinch his waist. This is not the time to pretend to be dead, right? Charlotte endured the pain and braced himself to take a step forward. But it was just a step. He couldn't make such an important decision in such a short time, in such a hurry. Tianyin, please accept my ring. And Xiaoxian held the jewelry box high above her head, but she had already been urging him in her heart. Tianyin's eyes moved to Charlotte again, and his voice trembled slightly. Charlotte, he proposed to me. Do you think I should say yes? Charlotte stared blankly on the spot. How could he make the decision for her in such a matter? Tianyin's vast eyes became even more misty. Then fine. Are you still going to maintain this kind of relationship with me that's neither close nor distant? Today, I only have one sentence. You either kneel down and propose to me, or I will agree to Xiaoxian's proposal. The queen was indeed the queen. I want you to kneel down and propose to me. She was still so strong and domineering. Charlotte was anxious and didn't know what to do. And Xiaoxian stared at Charlotte hatefully. He didn't say anything, but in his heart, he had already cursed Charlotte 10 times. He looked at Tianyin's eyes with a trace of hatred. He was not a fool. Tianyin said such words because he was obviously anxious for Charlotte to propose to her. This showed that in her heart, from beginning to end, there was only Charlotte. It seems that you don't want me to kneel down and propose to you. Tianyin's eyes rolled down 2 lines of tears. These tears melted Charlotte at once. At this moment, there was a voice in his heart. I have already broken up with Liang Xiao. We can't be together anymore. I grew up with Rui, and we are as close as siblings. I can't love her the way I love Liang Xiao. If I were to be with her, it would actually be harming her. As for Anina, we are only in that aspect as partners. I don't have that kind of true love for her. As for Shilami, it's even less of love. We can't be together. As for Tianyin, I just realized that I have always rejected her because of her strong and domineering nature. But she has always been hidden in my heart. Tianyin faced Xiaoxian. Okay, wait. Charlotte strode over, grabbed Tianyin's shoulders with both hands, and looked straight into her eyes. I want you to repeat what you just said. This time, it was Tianyin's turn to be stunned, and Xiaoxian said angrily, Charlotte, this has nothing to do with you. Don't you have any manners and manners? Scram, Charlotte said through gritted teeth. This was his attitude. You are the young director of the Celestial Territory Corporation? You are the son of the future president of Korea? In your father's eyes, you're nothing. You dare. And Xiaoxian didn't curse out loud. Facing an opponent like Charlotte, she couldn't win him in a fight, nor could she win him in a scolding. Moreover, he wasn't Korean. How could she deal with him? Tianyin finally came back to her senses. She seemed to understand what Charlotte wanted her to repeat. She took a deep breath and said, I want you to propose to me. No, you missed out one word. I want you. Tianyin suddenly roared agitatedly. I want you to kneel down and propose to me. That's it. I like it. Charlotte smiled and knelt on one knee. He reached into his pocket and took out a wrinkled paper bag. What's that? A female guest asked in surprise. The dignified chairman of Rema Group is actually so careless. That paper bag is wrinkled. Is it filled with nuts? Nuts? Haha, I think even if it's nuts, Shinatianin would agree, a male guest said with a smile. Gu Qian couldn't help but glance at Fu Mingmei. You brought him here. Do you know what's in that paper bag? Fu Mingmei shook her head. I don't know. It can't be chocolate, right? Gu Qian's forehead was already covered with black lines before Charlotte opened the paper bag, and Xiaoxian began to ridicule him. Charlotte, if you can't afford a diamond ring, I can lend you some money. Oh, right. I heard you borrowed 5 billion. You must not have any money now, right? It doesn't matter. As long as you ask, I can give you a few million. You don't have to pay it back. Charlotte smiled faintly, spending your father's money so confidently. If I had a son like you, I would send him flying with a kick. Isn't it just a broken ring? Is it enough for you to be so cocky? He opened the paper bag and took out a string of gemstone necklace. As soon as the necklace appeared, the entire office was filled with exclamations and gasps. Chapter 4:15. It was a necklace made of blue and red gems, dazzling and eye-catching. The pendant of the necklace was the size of a pigeon's egg, and the pure base was inlaid with a circle of diamonds, each weighing close to 1 carat. What was more exaggerated was that these diamonds were the most precious colored diamonds, not ordinary pure colored diamonds. This necklace was worn by Princess Yongmi, and it was also the best necklace Charlotte had found in the jade coffin. This necklace was hard to estimate, but it was definitely much better than in Xiaoxian's 10-carat diamond ring. Actually, when he took out this necklace, Charlotte realized that he had kept the best one for her. The office was filled with discussions. Oh my God, how can there be such a beautiful necklace in this world? Those gems, those color diamonds, how much are they worth? A female guest exclaimed. Who knows? If someone gives me such a necklace, I'll definitely marry him. Another female guest looked at the necklace in Charlotte's hands with hot eyes, envious and jealous. As expected of an arms dealer. He's so generous, a reporter sighed. It can't be fake, right? How can there be such a necklace in this world? A male guest expressed his doubt. Compared to that necklace, I'm more interested in who Shinatianin will choose, a male guest said. They're all very outstanding men. It's really difficult. What's difficult about it? A male guest said, if Shinatianin was my daughter, I'd let him choose in Xiaoxian. The God Domain Corporation is a large financial group in Korea, and in Jinjian might become the future president of Korea. How can Charlotte compare with such conditions? I don't think so, the woman beside him said. If I were Shinatianin, I'd choose Charlotte. Charlotte started from scratch, and in 2 years, he created a few billion worth of assets. He suffered and knows how to care for others. Living with such a man was truly blissful. And Xiaoxian? He's just a second-generation rich kid born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His most successful aspect is that he has a good father. There were dozens of people in the office, and there were all kinds of opinions. Amidst the chaotic discussion, Shinatianin made his choice. One of her hands reached out to Charlotte. Her lips trembled slightly. She was too excited to speak. Back then, she had chased after Charlotte, but was defeated by Liang Xiao. Later on, she closed herself off, but more than once hinted to Charlotte to pursue her. Now, Charlotte finally knelt in front of her and expressed his feelings to her. At this moment, and Xiaoxian's face was cold and her eyes were terrifying. However, Shinatianin didn't take the gemstone necklace from Xiaolei's hands. Her vast eyes were filled with tears, and her hand was hovering over the gemstone necklace, just a little bit away. Charlotte was stunned for a moment and thought to himself, isn't this what she wants? Why is she hesitating now? Next to him, and Xiaoxian seemed to see a glimmer of hope and said, Tianin, don't make the wrong choice. I'm the most suitable person for you. Think about the prospects of our family's union. Think about the mobile phone we're working on. Think about what our children will have in the future. These words could indeed move the hearts of most women. However, Shinatianin didn't even glance at Xiaoxian. She continued to stare at Xia, lay in a daze. Although she was holding back her tears, Her eyes were full of happiness and joy. Charlotte was even more puzzled. Why didn't she take it? At this moment, Fu Mingmei suddenly said, "Charlotte, you idiot, say something. Is there anyone who proposes like this? How am I supposed to accept your proposal if you don't say anything?" Her words woke him up from his dream. Charlotte smiled awkwardly and said, "Tianyin, marry me." Shinta Tianyin moaned and reached out to grab the gemstone necklace in Charlotte's hand. "I've been waiting for you to say this for a long time. I promise you," Fu Mingmei said loudly again. "Charlotte, you still have one more sentence to say." Charlotte turned around and glared at her, but in his heart, he was guessing what he had not said. Fu Mingmei had a look of exasperation as she said, "Say that you love her." Only then did Charlotte react. He opened his mouth, but the words came out awkwardly. "Tianyin, I love you." He had always been a shy man and was more traditional. It was difficult for him to say the words that other men could say easily. However, once he said it, he would bear the responsibility and would not change it easily. Shinta Tianyin pulled Charlotte up and hugged him in his plump arms. Humph! And Xiaoxian could not stay any longer. He stood up and turned around to leave. A reporter blocked his way and was pushed away by him in a very rough manner. "Charlotte, kiss her." Fu Mingmei jeered again. "Kiss her, kiss her." The guests and reporters also jeered. The office was filled with a joyous atmosphere. Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte with a smile, as if he was waiting for something. Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin had actually kissed before. At that time, Shinta Tianyin was being suppressed by Shun Tuyi's family. That kiss was also a show for Shun Tuyi. But now it was different. He had to kiss Shinta Tianyin in front of so many people. As a very traditional man at heart, he always felt a little embarrassed. However, he had already proposed, and she had also agreed. So what if he kissed her on the lips? As this thought flashed in his mind, Charlotte also let go. He plucked up his courage and kissed Shinta Tianyin's lips. Her lips were delicate and soft, containing sweet moisture. It was a very attractive taste. The feeling of kissing her this time was different from the first time, because he was kissing his fiancée now. Charlotte's strong arms, his lips, his taste, all these made Shinta Tianyin's emotions moved. She closed her eyes and looked very shy. But she took the initiative to open Charlotte's lips and put her lilac tongue into his mouth, letting him tease and taste. The shallow kiss turned into a wet kiss, and then a French kiss. This series of changes was natural and smooth. The surrounding guests and reporters also laughed and applauded. Of course, the DSLR cameras would definitely not miss this scene. They kept clicking and the electronic flash kept flashing. A minute later, Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin also separated. Both of their cheeks were a little red and embarrassed. That's all for today. Guests and reporters, please go to the factory tomorrow to participate in the opening ceremony. Fu Mingmei began to clear the guests. The guests and reporters left one after another. Shinta Tianyin sent them out politely. After sending off the last guest, Fu Mingmei said with a smile, "Congratulations on finally getting married. I won't disturb you. You two have a good chat, but don't be too anxious." Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte rolled their eyes at Fu Mingmei together. The same look and synchronized movements, as if they had rehearsed it, were very tacit. "Ha ha!" Fu Mingmei turned around and left. Gu Qian also smiled, but did not say anything. He followed Fu Mingmei and left. When she went out, she also closed the door of the office. Only Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin were left in the office. The two of them looked at each other. The atmosphere was full of awkwardness and sweetness. To Xiaolei, it was a dream come true. He had managed to chase after the girl of his dreams. For Shinta Tianyin, this relationship had gone through many twists and turns. Now that he was finally with the man he loved, this feeling was especially precious. "Why are you always looking at me?" Shinta Tianyin broke the silence and smiled. "Where'd you buy this gem necklace? It's so beautiful. I estimate it's worth tens of millions. Why did you buy me such an expensive gift?" Charlotte was a little embarrassed. "I didn't buy it. I dug it out from an ancient tomb in Afghanistan. Well, you may not believe it. It was worn by a princess of the Ming dynasty. That princess was called Zhu Xianyue, Princess Yomei." There's such an experience. Isn't this a priceless treasure? Shinatianin looked very surprised. Charlotte smiled. It must look good on you. I'll put it on for you. Okay. Shinatianin responded softly and then handed the gem necklace to Charlotte. Charlotte went behind her, brushed aside her hair, and put the necklace on her snow-white neck. Her skin was as delicate as snow. The sparkling and translucent ruby and sapphire and the bright colored diamond. This necklace on her made her look even more noble and elegant. It was a perfect match. You have to fix a ring for me. Shinatianin turned around and stared straight at Charlotte, who was close at hand. His eyes were hot. Propose. Who proposes with a necklace? I want a ring. Charlotte nodded. Okay, I'll go pick a ring for you. But Shinatianin suddenly hugged him and kissed his lips again. After a long time, the two separated. Both of them were covered with each other's scent and could be considered to have become one. Before, Charlotte said softly, Tianin, if I hadn't proposed to you, would you have agreed to Enshioshin's proposal? Shinatianin's lips curled into a sly smile. I've been waiting for you. Do you think I would have agreed to his proposal? Charlotte also smiled. He felt a little tricked, but this feeling made him feel very comfortable. He didn't mind at all. Come home with me. I want to tell my dad about us. He'll be very happy when he knows. Shinatianin said, his tone filled with happiness. Okay, then let's go to your house. Charlotte said, but in his heart, he was thinking about his father. His son had a fiancée. This kind of thing definitely had to be told to his father. But where was his father, Xia Changhe, now? Thinking about Xia Changhe, Charlotte's heart was a little more worried. But he didn't show it. Today was a good day, and he didn't want Shinatianin's son to have any regrets on this great day. Shinatianin simply packed up, then took Charlotte's arm and left her office. Along the way, the employees in the Heaven's Wings building all smiled at them. There were also some female employees who stared at Charlotte and whispered to each other. No one knew what they were discussing. These signs all showed that the relationship between the two's fiancé and fiancée had already spread. It was no longer a secret. This was just the beginning. Once the media started reporting that the chairman of the Rema Group, Charlotte, and my chairman, Shinatianin, were engaged, it would sweep through all of China like a hurricane. Chapter 416. And Xioshin was actually very smart. She knew how to use the partnership between the God Territory Corporation and the Wanxiang Corporation, as well as her father's power and influence. She also used the media reporters and VIPs to build momentum. She never expected Charlotte to appear out of nowhere and be intercepted. How could the dignified young director of the God Territory Corporation endure such humiliation? I want him dead. In the underground parking lot, in a Bentley sedan, and Xioshin flew into a rage and punched the steering wheel. In the back seat of the Bentley, a tall, blond man said in English, Mr. And even the assassins from the Russian Grizzly Bear organization couldn't kill Charlotte. If you want to kill him, you'll have to spend a lot of money to hire the best assassin in the world. And Xioshin turned to look at him, her voice cold. Mr. Hoffman, are you talking about you? The blond man called Hoffman said calmly, in this line of work, although I'm very good, I'm not the best. But I have my channels. As long as you're willing to spend money, someone will definitely be able to take Charlotte's life. I don't care about money. I'm willing to spend as much as it takes. And Xioshin wanted Charlotte dead immediately. And in front of him, all right, I'll contact the middleman right away. Hoffman took out his phone. But at that moment, a woman walked over from the back of the car and knocked on the driver's window. And Xioshin looked over and was instantly stunned on the spot. At the same time, a Chevrolet Suburban off-road van drove into the driveway from a parking space by the street, leaving the Heaven's Winged building behind in the blink of an eye. Charlotte drove, and Shinatianin sat in the front passenger seat. Charlotte looked at the road ahead, and she looked at Charlotte. There was a hint of a smile at the corner of her mouth. It was a very happy and very peaceful feeling. For Shinatianin, Charlotte proposing to her was undoubtedly a perfect result. She had waited for 2 years, and after many twists and turns, she finally got this result. But for Charlotte, this matter was somewhat dramatic. Before coming to the Heaven's Wings building, Charlotte would never have dreamed that he would propose to Shinta Tianyin, but after coming out of the Heaven's Wings building, he had become Shinta Tianyin's fiancé. In retrospect, if Xiaoxian hadn't been too arrogant and thought that she would be able to move Shinta Tianyin and make him agree to his proposal, Charlotte wouldn't have proposed to Shinta Tianyin at that time. The affairs of the world are unpredictable. Life is like a drama. If you keep looking at me, I can't concentrate on driving, Charlotte said with a smile. I'm looking at my fiancé. Can't I? Shinta Tianyin said softly. Who asked you to be so good-looking? When such words came out of Shinta Tianyin's mouth, it had a different flavor, and Charlotte laughed. Shinta Tianyin hit Charlotte. You're laughing at me when I'm praising you? Then I take back my words. You're so ugly. It's fine as long as you're beautiful. Men don't rely on their faces to make a living, Charlotte said with a smile. Xiao Lei was unprepared for the sudden change in his identity as Shinta Tianyin's fiancé. At first, he was not used to it, but as he spent more time with Shinta Tianyin, he slowly got used to it. The two chatted and laughed in the car. They even talked about the engagement banquet, but there was no result. Shinta Tianyin decided to leave the decision to her father, Shinta Run. Charlotte didn't have any objections, but he wondered if Shinta Run would choose a date on a whim. That would be too fast. As they chatted, the Chevrolet Suburban off-road van arrived at Zhou Xingxing's head office. The head office manager recognized Shinta Tianyin at a glance. As soon as he heard that they were picking out engagement rings, he brought Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin to the VIP room. At the same time, he asked someone to take out a few treasures from the vault for Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin to choose. Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin picked out the rings, but the head office manager stared at the gemstone necklace on Shinta Tianyin's neck. He was stunned. A few female employees who were waiting to serve Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin were whispering to each other. Did you know? That woman, she's Shinta Tianyin, the richest woman in China. A female employee whispered. AI, if only I were her friend. A female employee whispered. That man wouldn't be Shinta Tianyin's fiancé, right? He's really good looking. If he looked ordinary, would Shinta Tianyin like him? I think he must be a man who lives off a woman. If he comes here to pick a ring, the one who pays must be Shinta Tianyin. I bet my life. Although the voices of the employees were very low, how could they hide from Charlotte, who had a sensitive hearing? He actually heard them. The words of the female employees made him a little uncomfortable, especially the sentence that said he lived off a woman. Was he the kind of man who lived off a woman? However, he didn't care about anything. After all, there were just a few women who worked for a living. It was meaningless to make things difficult for them. In fact, the moment Shinta Tianyin agreed to his proposal, he realized that there would be such gossip. It was unavoidable. Who asked Shinta Tianyin to be richer than him? The head office manager seemed to have heard some gossip. He glared fiercely at the female staff, and the female staff immediately shut their mouths. Miss Tianyin, may I ask where you bought the necklace on your neck? The head office manager lowered his posture and looked very humble. Shinta Tianyin lowered her head and looked at the gemstone necklace on her neck. She said lightly, Do you know this necklace? Charlotte's gaze also moved to the head office manager. He also wanted to know the answer to Shinta Tianyin's question. The head office manager said, I saw this necklace in a unique book about precious jewelry. That book was my master's. It's an English edition. It's almost 200 years old. After a pause, he said again, Miss Tianyin, can you tell me where you bought this necklace? Shinta Tianyin said, My fiancé gave it to me. The head office manager suddenly looked surprised. Shinta Tianyin frowned. The head office manager was very good at reading people's expressions. He said, Miss Tianyin, please don't misunderstand me. I don't mean anything else. I'm just surprised because this necklace is valued at 20 million US dollars in Europe. Your fiancé gave you such an expensive and special necklace, which means he loves you very much. As soon as this sentence came out, not only Shinta Tianyin was stunned, but the female employees were also stunned. No one dared to say that Charlotte was a man who lived off a woman anymore. 20 million US dollars. That was 130 million yuan. Was he a man who was short of money to give such an expensive necklace? We gave the necklace to Shinta Tianyin Charlotte didn't know how much it was worth. He didn't feel distressed after knowing that it was worth 20 million US dollars. Since he was going to marry her, he should give her the best thing in the world. Sir, you said you saw this necklace in a book. How did the book describe it? Charlotte asked. The head office manager said, Sir, it's called Sacred Heart. It was a wedding gift from Baldwin IV, the last king of the Holy Land Kingdom, to his sister. At that time, Baldwin IV was in the late stage of leprosy, and Jerusalem was in urgent need of a new king to take charge. Baldwin IV had no children, so his sister had to find a husband to manage his kingdom. Oh, by the way, haven't you seen that very classic movie? I like that movie very much, so I'm very impressed with the story. I didn't expect to see the coronation gift that Baldwin IV gave to his sister, Sabella, today. The Holy Land Kingdom, Jerusalem, Baldwin IV, and his sister, Sabella, these people and things had disappeared in the long river of history 900 years ago. But this necklace fell into the hands of Princess Yomei, who knew the story behind it. Charlotte secretly remembered this story. It might be a clue to crack the ancient alloy and bronze treasure book. On the surface, he didn't show it and said lightly, Thank you. Your story is very wonderful. Well, Tianyin, have you chosen it? There were several diamond rings worth millions or even millions in front of Tianyin, but she just learned that the Sacred Heart that Charlotte gave her was worth 20 million US dollars. She was too embarrassed to ask for these diamond rings that were worth millions of US dollars. Forget it. Let's go and pick the cheaper ones. Tianyin said, You've already given me such a valuable gift. I'm already very satisfied. Charlotte said, How can you do that? You're my fiancé. If you go out wearing a diamond ring worth tens of thousands of US dollars, people will laugh at me. Tianyin was a woman full of wisdom. How could she not understand Charlotte's mind? She pursed her lips and smiled. Well, I'm your woman, and I'm also your face. How can I lose your face? Well, then I'll take this 3 million one. Charlotte also smiled. Stupid women had the advantages of stupid women, and smart women had the advantages of smart women. Tianyin had displayed this to the extreme. Manager, how much discount? Tianyin had already begun to manage the house for Charlotte. This no discount. What a joke. Tianyin came to buy an engagement ring and even offered a discount. The manager of Zhou Xingxing's head office was not easy to get to where he was today. Tianyin said lightly, 30% discount. If you don't offer a discount, we'll go to another shop. It's not your shop that sells. This. The head office manager looked very embarrassed. Tianyin frowned. I'll go back and check whether Zhou Xingxing has rented our shop. I'll talk to your boss about the rent later. Miss Tianyin, please wait a moment. I'll call our boss and ask for instructions. The head office manager couldn't stand it anymore. This was not a discount. It was a robbery. Half an hour later, Tianyin took Charlotte's arm and walked out of Zhou Xingxing's head office. She held up the diamond engagement ring on the middle finger of her left hand and looked at it again and again. The sun shone on her face. She was not as cold as she used to be, but more charming. Xiaolei was a little dazed as he watched. His mind seemed to have returned to the past, back to that small island. Love was the most complicated thing in the world, but sometimes it was simple. Just like now, a dream came true and a wish came true. Both were happy and perfect. Chapter 417. As night fell, the city entered a different state. Flashing neon lights, converging into light shuttles of traffic, and men and women lost in music and beer. In this prosperous age, life was luxurious. Charlotte also entered another state. In Tianyin's home in the capital, his identity was redefined. He was Tianyin's fiancé, Ren's future son-in-law, and now he was also a chef. He was busy in the kitchen, showing off his superb cooking skills. There were two people in the family. One was his future father-in-law, and the other was his future wife. Of course, he had to show off his skills and leave a good impression. Charlotte was busy in the kitchen, while Tianyin and Ren were whispering in the living room. I really didn't expect that you would just... Shintarin pretended to be unhappy. You two really didn't tell me in advance about such a big thing. I'm your father. Dad, Shinta Tianyin said seriously. I found you such a good son-in-law. You can't take advantage of him. Hee. Shintarin laughed. I know you. It's okay for you to talk to me like this. However, your temper is too cold and too arrogant. In the future, you should be careful when talking to Charlotte. Don't be too strong. Women can be strong in the workplace, but at home and in life, you have to be gentle. Shinta Tianyin held Shintarin's hand and said softly, Dad, I know you're doing this for my own good, but do you think your daughter doesn't know how to treat her man? Don't worry, he is mine. No one can take him away. That's not necessarily true. He is such an excellent man. How can there not be other girls eyeing him? Besides, you're only engaged now, not married. Dad, today is my big day. Do you have to spoil it like this? Shinta Tianyin curled his lips. Shun Turin lowered his voice. I'm doing this for your own good. Forget it. I can't count on you. Tomorrow, I will go to the Shaolin Temple's great master Shi to calculate my fortune and find a good date so that you two can get married as soon as possible. A smile appeared at the corners of Shinta Tianyin's mouth. I'm the one getting married, not you. Why are you in such a hurry? How can I not be anxious? The few friends who fought with me back then, which one of them didn't have grandchildren running all over the place? I'm really looking forward to holding grandchildren. Shin Turin chuckled and said, This matter, you guys do as you see fit. Shinta Tianyin's face blushed shyly. She and Charlotte had some very intimate physical contact, but it had been so long that she had almost forgotten that kind of feeling. Now that her father mentioned having a grandchild, those blurry feelings and past events resurfaced in her heart. Her heart felt a little itchy and a little fuzzy, a little yearning and a little shyness. Shintarin patted Shinta Tianyin's shoulder and sighed. Sigh, how good would it be if your mother was still here? She would definitely be happy for you. Shinta Tianyin gently lowered her head. At this moment, happiness and sadness were both wonderful feelings. It's time to eat, it's time to eat. Charlotte held 4 plates in both hands. As he walked to the dining room, he called Shinta Tianyin and Shun Turin over. Why aren't you going to help? Shun Turin rolled his eyes at Shinta Tianyin. You're already siding with him? Oof. Shinta Tianyin wrinkled her delicate nose and got up to help Charlotte. Shin Turin smiled bitterly and looked out of the window. He looked at the star-studded night sky and said softly, Wife, do you see? Our daughter finally found someone she can entrust her life to. Charlotte's not bad, really not bad. You'll definitely like him. A gust of night breeze blew over and lifted the curtains, as if it was the response of a loved one. Shen Tu-Run wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and walked to the dining room. Charlotte made 6 dishes: mutton soup, abalone and sauce, steamed scallops, 2 vegetarian dishes, and a German-style buttered pork chop. The combination of Chinese and Western, high and low, was delicious. Shen Tu-Run took out a bottle of red wine that looked very old, opened it, poured it into the decanter, and shook it gently. Charlotte looked at the old glass bottle and asked curiously, Uncle Run, what kind of red wine is this? It looks very old. I'm afraid it's a bit old, right? Shen Tu-Run laughed and said, You can't tell from here, right? This is the Binford Grange red wine that I've been saving for 10 years. There are only 20 bottles in the world. Back then, I bought it from a European collector and spent 100,000 USD. Charlotte was shocked. Uncle Run, how can you open such an expensive wine just like that? It's worth more than 600,000 USD. Drinking a bottle of red wine worth 600,000 USD at an ordinary family dinner. Although they were all billionaires, this was too extravagant. One must know that just the value of this bottle of red wine was enough for many people to work their entire lives. However, Shun Tu-Run did not explain why he opened such an expensive red wine. Instead, he pretended to be unhappy and looked at Charlotte. Leicester, you're still calling me Uncle Rin? Shinta Tianyin leaned against Charlotte under the table. Charlotte followed suit and changed his address. Dad. Ha! Shin Turin immediately laughed out loud. Just now you asked me why I opened this bottle of red wine. Because of this, because you call me Dad. Today is your wedding day. and I'm happy. If I don't open this bottle of red wine today, when will I open it? Shinta Tianyin mumbled. You can also open it on your wedding day. Shintu Rin rolled his eyes at Shinta Tianyin. When you get married, I also have a bottle of wine. When you give birth, I will also prepare a bottle of good wine on the day I hold my grandson. Shinta Tianyin's face turned even redder. Dad, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about giving birth? Do you think it's steaming mantu? Pinch a ball of dough and put it into a steamer to steam a mantu? Charlotte, the Wanxiang Corporation's Queen Shintu, would actually use such an analogy. This was really unimaginable. During dinner, the three of them ate happily. The only thing that bothered Charlotte was that the bottle of red wine that was worth more than 600,000 USD was actually not particularly worthy of praise. It was more or less the same as the red wine that was sold on the market for 1 or 2,000 USD. However, who could understand the world of the rich? Although he could be considered a very rich person now, he would not spend money like this. At the end of dinner, Shinta Tianyin took the initiative to clean up the dishes. Charlotte wanted to help, but she refused and insisted on doing it alone. Usually, there were actually servants at home, as well as Fu Mingmei and Fu Chuanfu. However, today was a special day, and these people were all asked to go out. Charlotte had nothing to do, so he went upstairs and entered the study. He used Shinta Tianyin's computer to search for Holy Land Kingdom, and the Baidu engine provided a lot of content. Jerusalem, Baldwin IV, his sister Sibylla, and the French knight Balian who married Sibylla. These people had long passed away, and it was difficult to even find a tombstone. But hundreds of years later, it affected his heart and made him search for the hidden secret. There's no description of the Sacred Heart, but it's not strange. It's just a necklace after all. If I want to know why this necklace fell into the hands of Princess Yongmei and became her burial object, I'm afraid Princess Yongmei will have to tell the story herself. Thinking of Princess Yongmei, Charlotte couldn't help but think of her appearance in his mind again. She was naked, beautiful, and incomparably gorgeous. He also couldn't help but imagine if Princess Yongmei was by his side at this time. What strange behavior would she do? Shinta Tianyin walked in from the door, and with a light tap of her heel, the door of the study closed with a click. What are you looking at? Shinta Tianyin walked to Xia Lei's side and leaned over to take a look at the monitor. Then she smiled. So you're watching the story that the manager told you. I've seen that movie before. It's very heroic and poignant. I really didn't expect that I would get Princess Sibylla's necklace. I will treat it as our family heirloom and pass it down from generation to generation. Charlotte smiled. If you have a daughter and a son, who will you pass it on to? Shinta Tianyin thought for a moment. Of course it will be passed on to the son. Since the daughter is going to get married, since it's a family heirloom, it must be passed on to the son. Charlotte gently held her hand. If you have 2 sons and a daughter, which son will you pass it on to? You want me to give you 3? Shinta Tianyin frowned slightly. I won't give you so many. It's very painful to give birth. You haven't given birth before. How do you know it's painful? I'm a woman. I'm born to know. As she spoke, Shinta Tianyin's upper body slightly leaned down, and her soft body intimately squeezed Charlotte's shoulder and part of his shoulder blade. The gentle squeeze was a clear signal. Charlotte looked at her, and there was only her in his eyes. There seemed to be a kind of magnetism in her body, attracting him closer little by little. Shinta Tianyin didn't flinch. She closed her eyes, and her cherry lips moved towards Charlotte little by little. Finally, their lips joined together, and then their tongues tangled together. They were like 2 fighting fish fighting in a narrow pond, trying to decide who would win and who would lose. There was no sound, but a lot of vague and inexplicable sounds floated out of Shinta Tianyin's throat, giving people the feeling that it was very painful, but also very happy. In the corridor outside the door, an old man walked slowly, holding 2 cups of steaming hot tea in his hand. The former chairman of the Wanxiang Group, an important figure in the business world of China, made tea for his future son-in-law, and even served it. Perhaps only Charlotte could enjoy this kind of treatment. However, Shinta Rin came happily, but before he could walk to the door of the study, a delicate voice suddenly came from the door. No, You're so bad. This was Shinta Tianin's voice, and every syllable seemed to be soaked in honey. Shinta Ren's legs suddenly froze, and he was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled bitterly, shook his head, and turned to leave. He really wanted to have a grandson as soon as possible, but he definitely didn't want to listen in on something like this. However, in the study, it was a different situation. There was a fire burning in Charlotte's lower abdomen, but this fire was extinguished by a piece of paper that could absorb water. He found himself, and it made him very embarrassed. Shinta Tianin bit her lips, and her face was red. Looking at Charlotte's sneak attack, her watery eyes wanted to drown Charlotte. Charlotte coughed dryly. How about we go watch the news broadcast? Shinta Tianin suddenly bit Charlotte's ear, and her voice was extremely charming. You look so honest, but I didn't expect you to be so bad. I feel like I've jumped into a fire pit. Charlotte reached his hand into her armpit, and as he scratched, he smiled and said, Then I'll let you have a taste of my fire pit. Shinta Tianin loudly begged for mercy. It's so itchy. Can you be gentler? My skin is breaking. At the top of the stairs, Shinta Ren's body trembled, and the teacup in his hand smashed on the back of his foot. Was this the rhythm of giving birth to a pair of twins? Chapter 418. Early the next morning, Charlotte accompanied Shinta Tianin to a light industrial park on the outskirts of the capital. The Times mobile phone factory was built there. Shinta Tianin's strategy was to make his own mobile phones first. When the brand matured and sales increased, he would expand production and place an order with a mobile phone OEM factory. Before that, he would make his own mobile phones, and the quality and after-sale service would be guaranteed. From this point, it was not difficult to see that although she was a very ambitious woman, she also had a cautious side. Charlotte thought that Xiaoxian would not come, but when he arrived at the factory, he found that Xiaoxian had been waiting there for a long time. Their eyes met, and Xiaoxian's eyes were filled with burning hatred, but in the blink of an eye, he revealed a smile. He looked calm and relaxed, as if he had gotten over it. He took the initiative to welcome them, and greeted Xiao Lei and Shinta Tianin. Good morning, you two. I thought you would have to wait for a while before coming. I didn't expect you to come so early. Shinta Tianin just nodded lightly. Morning to you too. That was all she said. She did not say anything else. She knew the relationship between Charlotte and Xiaoxian. She did not want to say too much to Xiaoxian and make Charlotte unhappy. She was now Charlotte's fiancée. She had to stand from the perspective of Charlotte's fiancé to face some people and things. A smart woman would not make mistakes easily. However, Charlotte did not even want to greet Xiaoxian. He said to Shinta Tianin, Tianin, you guys talk. I'll go to the workshop to take a look at your production line. Okay, Shinta Tianin said. You are the best mechanic and electrical engineer in the country. If you find any problems, you have to help deal with it. Charlotte smiled. No problem. Looking at Charlotte's back, and Xiaoxian's lips curled into a sinister smile. He seemed to be hiding a secret in his heart, and this secret could make him happy. Xiaoxian, Shinta Tianin said, Charlotte is my fiancée now. I hope you can accept this fact and treat it correctly. If you don't treat it correctly, it will affect the cooperation between our two families. And Xiaoxian shrugged and pretended to be cool. Business is business. I won't ruin the relationship between our families just because he stole you away. China is a huge market, and I am very optimistic about the future of our cooperation. Shinta Tianin said, It's good that you can think that way. In the future, you'll be the one to take over the Divine Realm Corporation. You should be broad-minded. And Xiaoxian smiled and said, Tianin, although he got you, we're still friends. Look, didn't I take the initiative to greet Charlotte today? But he ignored me. He was rude, but did I say anything? I didn't say anything. Am I not magnanimous enough? Shinta Tianin frowned slightly. She didn't like it when Xiaoxian said that Charlotte was rude, but she didn't want to talk about anything related to Charlotte with Xiaoxian anymore. She said, The reporters and guests haven't arrived yet. I'll go to the workshop to take a look. I'll go with you. and Xiaoxian followed Shinta Tianin to the workshop. Behind them, Gu Qian and Fu Mingmei also followed them to the workshop. Of the two women, one was Shintu Tianin's assistant, and the other was Shun Tu Tian's bodyguard. In such an occasion, they naturally had to follow Shintu Tianin closely. An engaged woman is really different. In the past, Fu Mingmei rarely talked to Gu Qian, but today she took the initiative to chat with Gu Qian with a smile on her face. "Miss Gu, do you think the magic of love is so great?" "It is." Gu Qian's lips curled into a smile. "Have you never been in a relationship before?" Fu Mingmei shook her head. "No, I'm not a casual woman." Her words seemed to imply something else, but Gu Qian didn't care. "I'm guessing that Charlotte and Shinta Tianin got together last night. Only then can it be considered true love." "Forget it. I don't want to talk about this with you." Fu Mingmei quickened her pace. Gu Qian chuckled and followed behind. At that moment, and Xiaoxian turned around and glanced at Gu Qian, who avoided her gaze. In the workshop, Charlotte really discovered problem. He looked around and said loudly, "Who's in charge here?" As soon as he said that, two people walked over, a middle-aged man and a young man. The middle-aged man's work pass was printed with the words, "Technical Department Supervisor Pu Changxing." The young man's work pass was printed with the words, "Technician Zhang Jia." From the names, it wasn't hard to tell that the middle-aged man was a member of the God Territory group. The young man was just an ordinary technician from the Wanxiang group. "Who are you?" Pu Changxing strode over with a displeased expression. "Why are you shouting?" This Pu Changxing actually spoke fluent Chinese. Charlotte said, "Are you the person in charge of installing the production line?" "So what if I am?" Pu Changxing was very impolite. "I'm asking who you are. Answer my question." Charlotte still didn't say who he was. He just said, "I found a problem. If I don't deal with it, there will be a big safety hazard." "Hey, you little brat." Pu Changxing sneered. "How did you get in? Where's your work pass?" Charlotte suppressed the anger in his heart. "I don't have a work pass." "Then you're not from our factory. Get out." Pu Changxing pointed in the direction of the workshop's door with an overbearing manner. However, the young technician from the Wanxiang group was very polite. He probed, "Sir, what problem did you find?" Charlotte said, "The nut at the base of the conveyor belt isn't tightened. Once it's in operation, it will hurt the workers if it moves." "How did you guys check for such a serious problem?" The young technician glanced at the nut at the base of the conveyor belt, but he didn't see any obvious signs of loosening. However, he still wanted to check it. "You little brat, didn't you hear what I said?" Pu Changxing's arrogance grew. He pushed Charlotte and rudely said, "Get out." Pu Changxing pushed Charlotte in anger. He must have used a lot of strength, but Charlotte didn't even shake. "Huh, bastard." Pu Changxing was stunned for a moment. He suddenly waved his hand and slapped Charlotte's cheek. Koreans had a bad temper. Pu Changxing seemed to be a typical example. However, he met Charlotte. Charlotte didn't want to quarrel with this Korean technical director. After all, this was Shinta Tianin's company. It had nothing to do with him. However, he didn't expect that Pu Changxing would think that he was easy to bully. Not only was his words rude, but he also pushed him and even wanted to slap him. Did he still need to endure such a thing? Pu Changxing's palm was ridiculously slow in Charlotte's eyes. His strength was also pitifully small. Charlotte reached out and grabbed Pu Changxing's wrist that was about to slap him. He then pushed in the direction of the wrist joint. "Ah!" Pu Changxing suddenly screamed. His legs couldn't stand steadily, and he fell toward the direction of the wrist joint. However, Charlotte's hand firmly grabbed his wrist, preventing him from falling. "I will discipline you on behalf of your parents," Charlotte said as he waved his hand and slapped Pu Changxing's face. With a crisp slap, Pu Changxing's cheek suddenly felt like he was hit by a boxer's heavy punch. The flesh on his face surged in the direction of the impact. His mouth was also slapped, and blood and saliva flew out. Before Pu Changxing could scream, Charlotte's hand that was grabbing him suddenly let go. Then, he received a slap on the other cheek. This time, his teeth were almost pulled out. Charlotte didn't make another move. 2 slaps were enough. Beating up a Korean technical director didn't mean anything to him. Pu Changxing was extremely angry, but he didn't dare to pounce on Charlotte again. At this time, A few people suddenly rushed over from the direction that Pu Changxing came from. They were holding steel pipes, wrenches, and other tools in their hands. Seeing these people, Pu Changxing suddenly had courage again. He hit me. Mother asterisk her, you dare to hit us Koreans. A young man scolded in Korean. He didn't say any nonsense. He waved the steel pipe in his hand and swung it toward Charlotte's head. These people were obviously Koreans, and they were very united. But it was useless. Charlotte grabbed the incoming steel pipe and kicked it. The young man who attacked flew up and fell heavily on the ground. He cried out in pain and couldn't get up for a long time. The few Koreans were stunned for a moment, and then they all pounced on Charlotte. Stop! Shinto Tianin's voice came from the workshop's entrance. However, the few Koreans only took a glance at her and didn't put her words in their eyes. They only paused for a moment before they used the steel pipes, wrenches, and hammers in their hands to smash at Charlotte. Charlotte stepped on the ground, and his body was lifted off the ground. He retreated 2 meters and instantly avoided the attack of the pack of wolves. Stop! And Xiuxian's voice was heard. At this time, the few Koreans stopped and looked at Charlotte fiercely. Shinto Tianin's face turned ugly. Her words didn't work, but Xiuxian's words did. Obviously, these Koreans didn't put her, the chairman, in their eyes. What's going on? And Xiuxian pretended to be angry and reprimanded the few Koreans from the Divine Domain group. Do you know who he is? He's Tianin's fiancé. The few Koreans weren't surprised. Instead, they showed disdain on their faces. Shinto Tianin said coldly, What's going on? And Xiuxian, I want an explanation from you. And Xiuxian shrugged. It's probably a misunderstanding. After all, Mr. Xia doesn't have a work pass with him, so he shouldn't be able to enter. My men probably followed the company's rules and regulations, so there was a conflict. It's fine. It's just a misunderstanding. She was obviously siding with those Koreans. Shinto Tianin wanted to say something, but Charlotte patted her shoulder. Since you asked me to help you deal with the problem, then let me do it. This is indeed a serious problem. Some people don't know where they are and who they are. And Xiuxian instantly furrowed her brows. She felt that Charlotte's words were meant for her to hear, reminding her of something. Sure enough, after Charlotte finished speaking, he suddenly dashed forward and slammed into those Koreans like a cannonball. A Korean youth who was on the same path as Charlotte couldn't react, and Charlotte's foot had already landed on his chest. With a muffled sound, he flew in the air and fell heavily on the ground. Landing on the ground, Charlotte threw a punch at a Korean who was trying to dodge, and the battle began. 10 seconds later, Charlotte retracted his fist. Beside him, several Koreans were lying on the ground, wailing in pain. All of their faces were deformed, and it was a tragic sight. Chapter 419. It was common knowledge for Korean employees to be arrogant and despotic in companies with Korean investments. The Koreans were hot-tempered, and there were incidents of them beating and scolding Chinese employees. Many Chinese employees who were bullied had no way to complain, so they swallowed their anger in order to keep their jobs. Not only did these reasons not cause the Korean employees to restrain themselves, they even became more aggressive. Such a situation was also proven in the Time Mobile phone factory. These God Domain Corporation employees did not respect the Wanxiang Corporation employees at all. Even Shinto Tianin's words were useless. If Shinto Tianin was already like this when he was present, one could only imagine what the situation would be like when Shinto Tianin was not around. To Charlotte, discovering that the transport belt's bottom nut was not tightened was actually a small problem. The real problem was the God Domain Corporation employees. A bunch of Koreans who did not even respect Shinto Tianin were working in Shinto Tianin's company, wearing the hat of technical staff and receiving a high salary, yet they still wanted to act like a big boss. How could Charlotte tolerate such a thing? Therefore, even though Xiuxian was not limited to those Korean employees, Charlotte still chose to make a move. Since they wanted to act like a big boss, they had to be prepared to be beaten up. Looking at those Korean employees who were beaten black and blue by Charlotte in the blink of an eye and lying on the ground, some of the employees who had been bullied could not help but smile and secretly applaud. They were happy, but Xiaoxian's lungs were about to explode from anger. He had already stopped his people, but Charlotte still beat his people up in front of him. This was equivalent to slapping his face in front of him. Bastard! And Xiaoxian pointed at Charlotte's nose and roared, "Get out!" Charlotte's face turned cold as he walked toward Xiaoxian. "You?" And Xiaoxian suddenly retreated, looking nervous. And Xiaoxian's bodyguard, Hoffman, followed suit and stood in front of Xiaoxian. He looked nervous, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. With Charlotte's current strength, there weren't many people in this world who dared to underestimate him. Not even top-notch professional assassins who killed people like flies. Charlotte stopped in his tracks. If he wanted to take Xiaoxian in, you would have to get past this burly Western bodyguard. He sensed a dangerous aura from Hoffman and couldn't help but size him up. Shintu Tianin. And Xiaoxian didn't even give face to Shintu Tianin now. She said aggressively, "How do you think this matter should be resolved?" Shintu Tianin replied calmly, "What do you mean by how?" And Xiaoxian said angrily, "Charlotte injured our Korean personnel. How do you think we should settle this?" Shintu Tianin frowned slightly. "So be it. It's no big deal. It's good to teach a few hungry dogs a lesson. Otherwise, they will think that this is a company solely owned by the Divine Domain Corporation and won't know who the owner is." There was a hidden meaning in his words, and Xiaoxian was an intelligent and sharp person. She reacted immediately and said with a gloomy expression, "Shintu Tianin, what do you mean? Did I not make myself clear?" Shintu Tianin looked at Xiaoxian and said coldly, "I have 70% of the shares of Time Mobile, and the Divine Domain Corporation only has 30%. I have the final say in how this company operates and manages it. These Koreans actually dare to attack my fiancé and speak rudely. They don't have to come to work anymore. Go back to where you came from." A simple sentence was like Song Taizu Zhao Kuangyin's authority to release troops after drinking wine. It was enough to chase the people from the Divine Domain Corporation out of Time Mobile. "Shintu Tianin, are you burning bridges after crossing the river?" And Xiaoxian was enraged. "Our people designed the production line and brought in Korean technology. We just completed it, and you want to chase our people away? You're too much. Unhappy." Shintu Tianin sneered. "We can withdraw our investments." "You?" And Xiaoxian nearly choked to death on this sentence. Charlotte was overjoyed. This was actually the first time he had seen Shintu Tianin's methods. The Korean side had invested funds, designed the production line, and brought in the technology. However, before they could earn a single cent, Shintu Tianin had asked them to withdraw their investments. Shintu Tianin said indifferently, "It's fine if you don't want to withdraw your investments. I can use the shares of the electronics company that we are cooperating with to exchange. If you aren't even willing to exchange, then be smarter. I have the final say here." The queen of the Wanxiang Corporation was just that domineering. Charlotte, who was like a ferocious tiger, and Shintu Tianin, who had such a powerful aura, were a perfect match. Both of them were so domineering, and Xiaoxian seemed to understand something. She sneered. "You've been using me since the beginning?" Shintu Tianin said, "I don't care about your opinion. I only care about the results. Get your people to leave." "Do you have to do this?" "I've already said it very clearly," Shintu Tianin said. "All right, let's talk about the withdrawal of investments and compensation after the opening ceremony," and Xiaoxian said. "Or we can talk in court. The exchange of shares doesn't need to go through the court. Tell me a time and place, and I'll talk to you," Shintu Tianin said. "Wait for my call." And Xiaoxian threw this sentence and turned to leave. He couldn't stay here a second longer. A few of the Korean staff who were beaten black and blue by Charlotte limped away. When they passed by Charlotte, Charlotte glanced at one of them. That guy was so frightened that he fell to the ground. "All of you can go back to work," Shintu Tianin said. The surrounding workers dispersed. Charlotte then said, "Tianin, are you really going to let the God Domain Corporation withdraw their investments?" Shintu Tianin's lips curled into a smile. "In my plan, I've always wanted them to withdraw their investments. Back then, I was willing to invest in the Korean electronics project because of their cell phone production line and their technology. I've already achieved this goal, So withdrawing their investments is also part of my plan. It's just that what happened just now made my plan move forward. Charlotte was stunned. He had never imagined that Shinta Tianin's plan could be traced back to that trip to Korea. His fiancée was indeed not easy to deal with. Shinta Tianin said, I purposely let them take advantage of that investment. That project naturally became a sample for this cooperation. Back then, I suffered a lot because of that project, and they'll have to go through the same thing. Her plan wasn't complicated at all. First, she would show her sincerity and let the God Domain Corporation take advantage of them. Then, she would use the fact that Xiaoxian was pursuing her to turn the previous cooperation into a sample for this cooperation. Now that she had achieved her goal, it was only logical for her to burn the bridge after crossing it. From the looks of it, even if Charlotte hadn't beaten up those Korean staff, it would have happened anyway. It would just have been delayed. So, I didn't make this decision because you beat up those Korean staff. This was something that would have happened sooner or later, so don't take it to heart. Shinta Tianin comforted Charlotte instead. Charlotte smiled bitterly. It seems that my business skills are still not as good as yours. Teach me a few tricks when you're free. Shinta Tianin pursed her lips into a smile and hooked her arm around Charlotte's. You're my fiancée, so I'll teach you whatever you want to learn. However, I don't think you need me to learn anything from you. You're capable, and you relied on your own abilities to make a name for yourself. I'm different from you. I pay more attention to strategies and capital operations. I'm a scholar, and you're a martial artist. If we work together, we'll be invincible. Charlotte was amused by her, but he felt that Shinta Tianin's theory was correct. For the past 2 years, he had relied on his own abilities and courage to make a name for himself. Making a name for himself was a martial development style. Shinta Tianin was a weak woman who took over the Wanxiang Corporation in the face of adversity. She had business rivals on the outside and traitors on the inside. If she didn't have any strategies and intelligence, she would have been destroyed long ago. Did I say something wrong? You're laughing at me. Shinta Tianin pretended to be unhappy. Charlotte laughed. No, I think what you said was pretty good. Shinta Tianin suddenly thought of something, and her dimples started to blush. You must be laughing at me for saying the word work together, right? Charlotte, women who were too smart could be quite troublesome at times. The two of them chatted and laughed as they left the workshop. Fu Mingmei and Gu Qian followed from afar. Sigh, he's really a troublemaker. Wherever he goes, there's trouble. Fu Mingmei sighed. Gu Qian said indifferently, I think he's doing quite well. Did you know that the plan to get the Divine Domain Corporation to divest or exchange for shares was made by me and Shinta Tianin together? If not for what happened just now, it would have been really troublesome to find an excuse. It just so happened that he solved this problem. Fu Mingmei glanced at Gu Qian. I really don't know what you're thinking. What are you referring to? Gu Qian probed. Fu Mingmei said, Charlotte has a grudge against you, but you match-made Charlotte and Tianin together. You even helped Tianin purchase your family's assets. Tell me, why are you doing this? Gu Qian smiled indifferently. People change. I've already lost the support of my father and brother, so I have to find a place to settle down. You can choose not to believe me, but I don't care. No, after experiencing so many things, I believe that you've changed. Really? Fu Mingmei said, in the past, I didn't even want to talk to you, but aren't we chatting now? Thank you. Gu Qian's lips curled into a beautiful smile. Let's go out. The reporters and guests are all here, and the opening ceremony is about to begin. Previously, the empty dam of the factory was still a desolate scene, but now there were people coming and going, and it was very lively. The workers of Time Mobile were busy arranging chairs and making tea for the guests and reporters. They were extremely busy, and Xiaoxian did not leave. He sat on the podium and looked coldly at Charlotte and Shinta Tianin, who were walking over. Despite the humiliation he had suffered earlier, the corners of his lips curled into a sinister smile. Then, his gaze shifted to Gu Qian, who was behind Shinta Tianin. This time, Gu Qian did not avoid his gaze. Instead, he smiled slightly. Chapter 420. Before Shinta Tianyin went to the host stage, a group of reporters surrounded her and Charlotte. Miss Tianyin, when will you get married? Mr. Xia, when did you and Miss Tianyin meet? Miss Tianyin, Mr. Xia, will Wanxiang Group merge with Rema Group after you get married? Miss Tianyin, will Wanxiang Group enter the military field? Mr. Xia. A large group of reporters, a lot of questions, but none of them was related to the mobile phone. The media was concerned about what the public was concerned about, and the people were not interested in mobile phones. They were interested in Charlotte's gun and Shinta Tianyin's love and marriage. I'll summarize your questions and answer them together, Shinta Tianyin said. Our wedding date is not far away, closer than you think. However, it's not convenient to disclose the specific day. I will definitely inform you and invite you to have a drink. Charlotte was stunned. When was the wedding date set? Why didn't he know? And it was closer than what the media had guessed. The reporters still wanted to ask questions, but Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte's hand through the group of reporters and took him to the host stage. Under the introduction of Shinta Tianyin, Charlotte shook hands with several leaders of Jingdu who had arrived. He didn't know these leaders, but none of them didn't know him, Charlotte. Since the XL 2500 sniper rifle of Rema Military Factory made a hit at the Russian International Small Arms Exhibition, his name was like a hurricane blowing across China, and few people didn't know him. Even now, many big stars weren't as famous as him. Whether it was the leaders of Jingdu or the distinguished guests who came to attend the ceremony, Charlotte handled them with ease and confidence. To be Shinta Tianyin's man, he must be excellent in all aspects. Not for anything else, because Shinta Tianyin was the best woman of this era. He was the man who conquered her. How could he not be excellent? After some small talk, Shinta Tianyin started the speech. Charlotte sat on a chair beside Xiaoxian. He looked at Xiaoxian but didn't say anything. When Charlotte stared at him, Xiaoxian's heart still felt a little numb, but he quickly got used to it and pretended to be indifferent. Shinta Tianyin chose you, so you won. I have nothing to say. However, I'm not optimistic about you. Even if you get married, your marriage won't last long. Charlotte said indifferently. Do you think it's interesting to say such words? Boring. Whether my marriage with Shinta Tianyin will last or not is our business. It has nothing to do with you. Besides, even if we get divorced, you won't get her. In my eyes, you're just a guy with a good father. Other than your father, you're nothing. And Xiaoxian didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. Don't you people in China have an old saying, reincarnation is also a skill? I have a good father. That's my fate. I'm destined to be rich and powerful in this life. But you, your father, speaking up to here, and Xiaoxian suddenly stopped. At this moment, Charlotte seemed to smell something unusual. He stared at Xiaoxian. What's wrong with my father? And Xiaoxian said disdainfully, how would I know who your father is? However, from your background, I can guess that your father is probably a laborer in a construction site. Charlotte, you don't have a noble bloodline. You don't have a noble upbringing. Although you've made a name for yourself and have money, you're still not a noble. You can only be regarded as a nouveau riche. You don't have the foundation that I have. Such ridicule, Charlotte didn't seem to hear it. His mind kept replaying the scene of Xiaoxian suddenly stopping talking. His eyes, the slight trembling of his lips, all of these appeared in his mind one by one, incomparably clear. He also secretly said in his heart, in Korea, in the hotel coffee shop, and Xiaoxian clearly had an affair with someone from the CIA. And Jin Jian is a politician who is about to run for the Korean presidency. How could he not seek support from the U.S.? From the looks of it, if Xiaoxian didn't know something about my father from the CIA's channels, why did he stop talking just now and then cover up? What? Did I hit a sore spot? Nothing to say now? And Xiaoxian said sarcastically. Only then did Charlotte collect his thoughts. He looked in Xiaoxian's face with a slightly cold smile. And Xiaoxian, let me tell you this. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because your father and the CIA are backing you. CIA? The CIA? What a joke. And Xiaoxian denied flatly. You should be a scriptwriter. Charlotte said, listen to me first. Let me tell you this. In Afghanistan, I killed dozens of U.S. Special Forces and CIA agents. They tried to capture me several times, but they didn't succeed. Do you think you're stronger than them? In Russia, you bribe members of the Grizzly Bear organization to assassinate me. They're all dead, but I'm still alive. Do you think you're more ruthless than them? In Xioshan, you can go against me. I never mind having another opponent like you. However, I have a message for you. Know when to stop and act within your means. I have a bottom line. Once you cross my bottom line, I will. He moved closer to Xioshan's ear, and his voice suddenly turned cold. I will take your life. And Xioshan's body suddenly froze. He didn't want to admit it, but he couldn't lie to himself. When Charlotte said this to him, he was afraid. At this moment, he suddenly felt that Charlotte wasn't a business boss, nor was he Shinda Tianin's fiancée, but a cold-blooded killer who killed people like flies. There was an aura of death on Charlotte's body that was comparable to that of an ancient executioner. Such an aura would make people feel cold and fearful. Along the way, Charlotte had killed at least 70 or 80 people, if not 100. When he revealed his murderous intent, how could he not have a murderous aura? Shinta Tianin spoke with fervor and assurance on the stage, outlining the bright future of mobile phones in this era. However, Xioshan was in no mood to listen at all. He seemed to be preoccupied. Beep, 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 beep. Charlotte's cell phone rang. Charlotte took out his cell phone and glanced at it. He then got up and left, answering the call while walking. The call was from Sher Boren, and the moment Xia Lei swiped on the answer button, he heard Sher Boren's coarse voice that made his eardrums uncomfortable. You rascal, the country gave you such an important mission, but you sneaked out to have fun. Are you worthy of the trust of the higher-ups in me? Charlotte continued to walk to a place without people and said with a wry smile, CEO, sure, the expert group has been studying for so long without any results. You can't expect me to come up with a result in a week or a month, can you? Besides, if the higher-ups had a way, would it still be my turn to take over? I've said that since I'm taking over, I have to do it my way. How can you not be anxious? Fine, fine, fine. I can't win against you in an argument. Sher Boren jokingly scolded. You went out for a trip and unexpectedly got engaged to Shinda Tianin. I only learned about it when I read the newspaper. What's going on? It's normal. We met 2 years ago and liked each other, so we got together. Sai, my goddaughter likes you wholeheartedly, and old Master Tang also likes you very much. Can't you reconsider? Marriage is not a child's play. Anyway, I'm optimistic about you being with that girl, Yi Yin. Both of you are 101 levels as people and have gone through life and death together. Yu Yin is beautiful, generous, educated, and reasonable. She's more than enough for you. Charlotte, did Sher Boren call it this time to separate him and Shinda Tianin? It was understandable for him to do it for Tang Yuyan. After all, she was his goddaughter. But this was giving him a headache. It was not that he had never thought about Tang Yuyan. He would never forget his experience in Afghanistan, especially when Tang Yuyan stitched up the wound on his butt. Also, there was the matter of them in the fitting room in Moscow. These memories were all beautiful, interesting, and moving. However, the Tang family was not suitable for him. Although the Tang family was a powerful family with hundreds of years of history, they had existed for too long and had too many rules. They were too old-fashioned, so much so that they seemed lifeless. He did not like that feeling. Moreover, the Tang family had too many people in politics, so they formed their own faction. Because of his father, Xia Changhe, he did not want to hastily become a member of the Tang family. If his father, Xia Changhe's identity, was exposed and something happened, the Tang family would definitely cut ties with him. They might even turn against each other and sacrifice him to protect themselves. With such a hidden danger, how could he choose Tang Yuyan and become a member of the Tang family? Forget it. You youngsters can play around with your love affairs. I was just saying, just pretend you didn't hear it. Sher Boren changed the topic. Let's get down to business. The treasure hunting teams sent by the higher-ups have found something. I just received the news. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that they found a new, ancient alloy? It's not convenient to talk over the phone. I've asked Yin to go to your military factory. You can go back now. She brought something from there. Go back and study it. Let me know as soon as you have any results. Sherboran's tone was serious. Okay, I'll go back now. Charla hung up the phone. At this time, Shinta Tianyin had also finished her speech and was ready to cut the ribbon with Xiaoxian and another leader. Charlotte walked over and whispered in Shinta Tianyin's ear. There's something urgent at the company. I'll go back first. Okay, go and do your work. Call me when you're done. Shinta Tianyin was not a clingy woman. Charlotte lowered his voice again. And Xiaoxian is a narrow-minded and vengeful person. You set him up. It's hard to guarantee that he won't take revenge on you. Be careful. You'd better call me when you negotiate with him. I'll go with you. A smile appeared at the corner of Shinta Tianyin's mouth. Okay, and what else? Forget it. There's nothing else. I'm leaving. I'll call you later. Charlotte did not stay and walked away. He had wanted to remind Shinta Tianyin to be careful of Gu Qian. However, he had reminded her more than once, but she did not listen to him. Even if he reminded her now, she would not listen. Below the stage, Gu Qian smiled at him. You're leaving so soon. Did something happen at the company? Charlotte stopped and glanced at Gu Qian. However, he only nodded and walked past Gu Qian. For some reason, although Gu Qian always defended Shinta Tianyin's interests and even stood on his side several times, speaking for him and giving him ideas, he still did not believe her. Not because of anything else, but because the Gu family had been destroyed because of him, and Gu Dingshan had died because of him. To be able to wipe away the hatred of killing one's father and exterminating one's family with a smile, was there such a saint in this world? Watching Charlotte leave, Gu Qian maintained a smile on his face. That smile seemed to be glued on and did not change for a long time. Chapter 421. Seeing Tang Yuyin again, Charlotte felt awkward and did not know what to say. On the other hand, Tang Yuyin behaved gracefully and said with a smile, Congratulations, Shinta Tianyin is a very good woman. You will be happy with her. As she said this, there was a faint sadness hidden in her eyes. Thank you. Charlotte did not want to talk more about his engagement with Shinta Tianyin. After asking Tang Yuyin to take a seat, he changed the topic. By the way, Mr. Sure said you brought something. Let me see. Tang Yuyin handed a file to Charlotte. Charlotte took out the contents of the file, which were some photos and a paper document. There were many photos of the city of Jerusalem, including the world-famous Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It was the burial place of Jesus, the Son of God, and it was a holy place in the hearts of Christians. Jerusalem was regarded as a holy place by three major religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. In Jerusalem, there is also the Wailing Wall for Judaism and the Dome of the Rock Mosque for Islam, both of which represented the holy places of the two religions. However, the photos in the file did not include the Wailing Wall or the Dome of the Rock Mosque. Is the third treasure site in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? Charlotte guessed. Sure enough, he then saw a description in the paper document. The compass points to the depths of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and there is no passage. That place is sacred and inviolable, and no one can touch it. We have thought of all the ways we can think of, and we have used all the methods we can think of, but none of them work. The operation has come to a standstill, and we are requesting support. In addition to this description, the document also described many of the methods they had thought of, the methods they had used, and some information about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This content was indeed for one purpose: to show the higher-ups that it was not that they did not work hard, but that they had no other way. Indeed, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was a holy place for Christianity, and it was the burial place of Jesus. How could they just dig it up? This was no longer a problem that could be solved by money and national power. It was a problem of faith, and the power of money seemed weak and powerless here. Charlotte looked at the paper document, but Tang Yuyin quietly looked at him. No one knew what she was thinking. After Charlotte finished reading, he put the photo and the paper document into the folder and handed it back to Tang Yuyin. Are you done? Tang Yuyin broke the silence between the two. Charlotte nodded. I did. It's really troublesome. Why did you suddenly think of proposing to Shinta Tianyin? This was Tang Yuyin's second question. Her thoughts were jumping around wildly. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. I thought you would ask me what I think. Why did you ask me this? Tang Yuyin said, I'm just asking. If it's not convenient, you don't have to tell me. Charlotte smiled bitterly. When Xiaoxian proposed to Tianyin, it was very sudden. I don't know what happened, and then she proposed. Tang Yuyin said, Tianyin probably said that if you didn't propose to her, she would agree to Xiaoxian's proposal, right? Charlotte was stunned. She could actually guess such a thing. He did not say it out loud because he did not want Tang Yuyin to think that Tianyin was scheming in this matter. He did not expect that she did not need him to say it at all. She just guessed it. It seems that she really said that. Tang Yuyin's mouth slightly curled up. She really is an extremely smart woman. She knows how to use Xiaoxian to pressure you. You're also honest. Just because she said that you will give in? Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, Don't talk about her like that. I proposed to her because I really like her. If it wasn't for this reason, I wouldn't have done it. Charlotte did not care whether Tianyin used anyone or whether she was scheming or not. He only cared about one thing, and that was that he really liked her. In fact, if he really wanted to find a reason, it would be Tianyin's tears. Her tears had melted this steel-like man and awakened his feelings for her. However, even if that was the reason, it was because he really had her in his heart. It was the seed that she had planted a long time ago. Tang Yuyin shrugged. It seems that I am talking too much. Anyway, you are already together. I wish you both the best. Charlotte smiled. Thank you. Well, let's get down to business. Tang Yuyin also changed the topic. You have seen the report and the photos. What do you think? Charlotte shook his head. There is no way. If the thing is really buried under the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, there is no way to dig it up. That place is a holy place for Christianity. If anyone dares to destroy it, Christians all over the world will be furious. Not to mention the revenge of Christians, just the international public opinion will drown people. You can't do anything. I can't. After a pause, Charlotte said, However, I can't judge based on this report and the photos. If I go and see it, maybe I can have a different opinion. You want to go to Jerusalem? Tang Yuyin looked at Charlotte. Charlotte was silent for a moment before he said, The higher-ups have given me the task of studying the ancient alloy and the bronze book. Currently, the progress is slow and I need more clues. If I really can't dig out the third treasure site, my research will probably not yield any results. So, even if it is very dangerous, I plan to go and see. Tang Yuyin said, Well, I will report to the higher-ups. If they approve, we will leave for Jerusalem. You're leaving? Don't you want to stay a little longer? Charlotte said. Tang Yuyin pouted. You are a married woman now. I don't want to be misunderstood by Tianyin. That's it. I'm going back to the station. Charlotte was speechless. After sending Tang Yuyin off, Charlotte also walked out of the office building and headed for the new factory area. His engagement with Tianyin was only a little embarrassing in front of Tang Yuyin, but in front of Anina, it was an embarrassment because of his identity. He didn't know how to mention this to Anina, let alone how to get along with Anina in the future. A woman followed him wholeheartedly, worked for him, slept with him, and now he was engaged to another woman. From a woman's point of view, no matter what the reason was, such a thing was unacceptable. In the new workshop, Charlotte found Anina. She was debugging an XL 2500 sniper rifle that seemed to have a problem. She was very serious and didn't notice Charlotte's arrival at all. The Germans were well known for their strictness, and she had the same characteristics. Once she started working, everything else would be thrown to the back of her mind. Anina's assistant saw Charlotte and reminded Anina. Only then did Anina raise her head to look at Xia Lei with a charming smile. This smile was not mixed with any negative emotions. It was very frank. Charlotte was a little puzzled. Didn't she know? Busy? Charlotte greeted her, a little embarrassed. Anina's assistant was very tactful. She greeted Charlotte and left. Anina said, This batch of guns is to be sent to Argentina, 100 of them. There's a problem with this one. I need to adjust it. Well, thank you. Charlotte suddenly felt that he was too clumsy and didn't know what to say. Some things were embarrassing even thinking about it. It really took courage and skill to bring it up and then face it. Anina said with a smile, "You're weird today. What do you want to say to me?" That. Charlotte still couldn't say it. "Let's go out for a walk." Anina said, "I've been here for a few hours. My back is sore." Charlotte nodded and followed Anina out of the new workshop. The sun was shining brightly outside. The hillside behind the factory was green and yellow, forming a beautiful picture under the golden sunlight. The two walked along a path sprinkled with fallen leaves toward the hillside. Along the way, the two didn't speak. Along the way, Charlotte had already guessed that Anina must have known about his engagement with Shinatianin. Otherwise, with her lively personality, she wouldn't have said nothing. Under a tree, Charlotte stopped. Anina suddenly smiled. "I've been waiting for you to say it, but you can't." "All right, let me tell you. Yesterday, someone told me about you and Shinatianin. You guys are engaged. At night, I saw the news when I was watching TV. To be honest, I was a little sad at first, but I got over it later." Charlotte didn't know what to say, so he quietly guessed what she was thinking. But he couldn't tell if Anina was happy or sad at the moment. The smile on her face seemed real, but it also seemed like a clever disguise. Anina lightly punched Charlotte. "I know, from the time we met in Germany until now, you've never really loved me in your heart. You're with me because you sympathize with me. But I like you, so even though I know you won't really fall in love with me, I'll still be with you. I told you before, I'm an intuitionist. I don't care about anything else. I only care about my feelings. Now that you're engaged to Shinatianin, it's time for me to wake up from my dream. Don't worry about me. I'll get used to it soon. Even without you, I still have my dream. Now it's time to put all my energy into my dream." This was intuitionism. This was Anina. Western women were different from Eastern women. In terms of relationships, Western women were often more free and easy than Eastern women. They could pick up and let go of things, and they wouldn't be hung up on one tree. They also wouldn't see love and marriage as the most important part of life. "Thank you." Thousands of words came out of Charlotte's mouth, but he was sincere. Anina grinned, then turned and walked up the hill. Charlotte was a little curious. "Where are you going?" Anina said, "You're going to become another woman's husband soon. Before that, you should have a bachelor party, right? I want to give you a special bachelor party." Charlotte was speechless. "Also, you promised me that you'll help me realize my dream. Before that, you have to satisfy my needs in that area. I don't like other men." Anina looked very serious. Beads of sweat quietly appeared on Charlotte's forehead. What kind of breakup was this? But before Charlotte could say anything, Anina held his hand and ran up the hill. "I know a place where the grass is especially soft, like a carpet." Charlotte was speechless. Chapter 4:22. Anina knew from the beginning that Charlotte wouldn't really fall in love with her. She was only pursuing that kind of sensual pleasure with him to satisfy her own emotional and physical needs. In such a situation, Charlotte was engaged to Shinatianin. Did she need to care? However, coming back from the secret grassland that was even softer than a carpet, Charlotte, whose waist and legs were sore, secretly complained. He also had an idea. "It seems that I have to avoid her in the future. If I really can't avoid her, then I'll satisfy her. Slowly, she will forget me. In addition, I have to realize her dream as soon as possible. This is the right way to solve the problem." Anina's dream was to build a Bavarian-style castle on the bank of the Isar River in Munich, Germany, and then have a large farm and winery near the castle. For Charlotte, money was no longer a problem. The biggest problem was how to make Germany give up the pursuit and accusations against Anina. Every time he thought of this problem, Charlotte felt a headache and was at his wit's end. Returning to the Thunder Horse Army factory, Charlotte locked himself in the underground laboratory. Now, only work could free him from the trouble of women. Looking through the text on the bronze treasure book, mysterious syllables formed in Charlotte's brain. It was as if someone was reading an article or chanting a scripture. This was a mysterious language, not even a language. He couldn't decipher it. Charlotte changed his target to a piece of ancient alloy. As he looked through it, a snow-white and smooth figure suddenly appeared. Princess Young May walked in the underground laboratory with an elegant gait. She lowered her head as if she was thinking about something. In the past, when she appeared, she would definitely say one sentence. "I've remembered your face." And the next sentence would be, "I've waited for you for a long, long time." But this time, she didn't say anything. She just walked with her head down. Is her ideology not fixed and can change? Charlotte was curious. He observed for a while, but didn't find any pattern. AI. Princess Young May suddenly sighed and sat on a chair. Charlotte was dumbfounded. He was just wondering if Princess Young May had a normal mind, but in the blink of an eye, Princess Young May showed it. Although it was just a sigh, to Charlotte, it was as exciting as saying 300 sentences. It was very simple. If she did not have any emotions or thoughts similar to those of a normal person, why would she sigh? Just as Charlotte was making wild guesses, Princess Young May supported her cheeks with her hands and stared at Charlotte with her limpid eyes. In this position, her chest was somewhat covered, but her pair of long white legs were not covered at all. That mysterious and elegant scenery could make people have a nosebleed, and it could even stimulate their primitive wildness. Charlotte didn't know where to look, but he couldn't help but stare at her closely, observing all the changes in her. After staring at each other for a while, he said tentatively, "Your zipper is undone." Princess Young May lowered her head and looked down. Charlotte exclaimed in his heart, "She knows what I'm talking about." A second later, Princess Young May raised her head and looked at Charlotte again. Then she said, "I'll remember your face." Charlotte. In that instant, all his fantasies were shattered. After trying a few times, Charlotte gave up. Other than that inexplicable sigh, Princess Young May did not say anything new. She repeated the same two sentences over and over again. Those two sentences seemed to be her answer to every question. No matter what he asked, she would use them to answer him. He was about to go crazy. Looks like I have to make a trip to Jerusalem. The most basic condition to unravel the secret of the ancient alloy and the bronze book is to gather everything. After they were all gathered, would those similar ancient alloy parts really be pieced together into a box? But will it be Pandora's box, the source of disaster? Charlotte was filled with imagination and worry. A moment later, Charlotte left the underground laboratory. Before leaving, he called the soldier at the door in and put the two pieces of ancient alloy and the bronze book into the safe under the soldier's gaze. The soldier was wearing a full set of protective clothing, as if he was afraid of being infected by the plague. Even if he watched, he would stay far away. After putting the things away, Charlotte turned around and left. This time, he didn't lock Princess Young May up. He had his own considerations. Princess Young May inexplicably let out a sigh. If she was given more time to stay in the outside world and come into contact with more things, would she have more self-awareness? This was his goal. He wanted to return Princess Young May's freedom. He wasn't at all worried that Princess Young May would run far away and lose contact with him, because from the first time he released her, she was like a follower of his. Wherever he was, she would be there. When he came out of the basement, Charlotte found that the sky was already dark. He suddenly felt a little hungry, so he went into the villa's kitchen and fried 2 steaks, one for himself and one for Anina. As soon as he came out of the kitchen, Anina came back. She smelled the aroma and said happily, "Wow, Lucas, you made steak? It smells so good. Is there any for me? I know you must be hungry, so I made an extra. Let's eat together," Charlotte said. Anina walked into the dining room and kissed Charlotte's cheek. Then she sat at the table and enjoyed the steak that Charlotte made. Charlotte poured 2 glasses of red wine, one for Anina and the other for himself. "Thank you." Anina took a sip of the red wine, looking very satisfied and comfortable. This is the atmosphere of a bachelor party. Have you thought about the program? If you don't have a program, I have a few good ideas. I'll definitely give you an unforgettable bachelor party. With this sentence, Charlotte almost dropped the fork that was holding a piece of beef on the table. It was supposed to be a heartbreaking breakup, but it turned into a party for the female mechanic. It was a joyous occasion, and there was even a program. At this moment, Princess Young May suddenly came over and put her head on the goblet beside Charlotte. Charlotte's attention was then diverted. He said in surprise, "What does she want? Does she want a drink?" It was really strange for a woman who didn't even have a real body to want a drink. Princess Young May's head stopped about a foot above the goblet. Her nose twitched as if she was smelling the red wine. Then she reached for the goblet, but her hand passed through the goblet, and she couldn't pick anything up. Charlotte sighed in his heart. "You don't even have a hand. How can you pick up the goblet?" Princess Young May suddenly put her head down. The goblet was embedded in her cheek, and her mouth was buried in the red wine. She seemed to want to drink in this way. Charlotte's lips curled up into a smile, and he said to himself, "It's useless." But at this moment, the red wine in the goblet suddenly rippled like the surface of a lake being swept by a breeze. Charlotte was stunned. Fortunately, Anina didn't notice this strange phenomenon. She kicked Charlotte lightly under the table and blinked her blue eyes at Charlotte. "Lucas, the first program is us taking a bath together. What do you think?" Charlotte came back to his senses this time. "Huh, why is your wine moving?" Anina noticed the ripples in Charlotte's goblet and asked curiously. Charlotte hit the table with his knee. "I probably accidentally touched the table, so that's how it is." "I thought it was going to be an earthquake," Anina said. At this moment, Princess Young May left Charlotte's goblet. She stuck out her tongue and slid it around her bright cherry lips as if they were stained with red wine. But Charlotte saw clearly that there was nothing on her lips. "Should I lock her up? If I continue to let her go, she will create some strange phenomenon and it will inevitably be discovered. But if I don't let her go and let her contact the outside world, how can I observe any valuable clues?" Charlotte was a little hesitant. Anina finished the steak and drank the red wine that Charlotte poured for her. She wiped the corner of her mouth with a napkin and said, "Lucas, I'll wait for you in the bathroom upstairs. Come quickly. You usually eat fast, but you're too slow today. Today is your bachelor party. Don't waste time on steak." Charlotte, not long after Anina left, a phone call came. "Mingmei, what's the matter?" Charlotte recognized Fu Mingmei's phone number. "Sir, who are you to the owner of this phone?" The voice that came from the phone was a man's voice. Charlotte's heart suddenly tightened, and he had a bad feeling. He blurted out, "Who are you?" "I'm a doctor at Charity Hospital. Your friend is injured and is currently in the hospital. She doesn't have an ID and only has your number in her contact list, so I'm calling to ask, what happened to her?" Charlotte's heart was already starting to become nervous. "Tell me quickly. She's seriously injured. She was beaten up by someone. She fell on the side of the road, and a passerby called the ambulance. Coincidentally, our hospital is nearby, so the command center sent our hospital's ambulance over. She needs surgery. Hurry over and take a look. By the way, remind her to bring her medical insurance card and more money," the doctor said. Charlotte's emotions were a little out of control. "I'll come right away, but you have to immediately operate on her and save her." But the doctor wanted to say something, but stopped. Charlotte said fiercely, "I'm Charlotte, and I have money. I'll cure her even if it costs 10 million. Also, she's Shinda Tiannin's bodyguard. She won't be short of a penny." "Oh, it turns out to be... Okay, I'll arrange the surgery right away." The doctor then hung up the phone. As long as the doctor who called liked to watch the news and surf the internet, he would think that he had seen the news about Charlotte. And Shinda Tiannin was even more famous. She was the richest woman in China, and her reputation had long spread throughout China. So, would Shindu Tiannin's bodyguard lack medical expenses? Charlotte put away his phone and ran out. At this moment, he couldn't care less about Anina, who was waiting for him in the bathroom. The bachelor party ended early. The only one who followed Charlotte was Princess Young May. No matter how fast Charlotte ran, she followed him like a shadow, always keeping a few steps behind him. But Charlotte was no longer in the mood to observe her changes. He was not only worried about Fu Mingmei, but also worried about Shinda Tiannin. Chapter 423. Fu Mingmei was lying on the operating table. Her originally beautiful face was seriously deformed. Her lips were turned out and swollen. Her eyes were black and swollen. There were knife wounds on her lower abdomen and chest, and they were still bleeding. The nature of such injuries was obvious at a glance. Someone had attacked her. Outside the hospital's operating room, Charlotte's heart was ignited with a flame of anger after seeing the situation in the operating room. He took out his mobile phone and dialed Shinta Tiannin's number again, but Shinta Tiannin's mobile phone was still turned off. In fact, on the way here, Charlotte had called Shinta Tiannin's mobile phone more than once, but he couldn't get through. Now, Fu Mingmei was lying on the operating table, and her life was hanging by a thread. Obviously, she couldn't tell him what had happened. At this time, he seemed to be blindfolded and covered his ears. He was trapped in a closed environment and couldn't get the information he needed. After hesitating for a long time, Charlotte still dialed Shinta Ren's number. "Dad, Lei, what's the matter?" Shinta Ren seemed very happy to receive a call from Charlotte. Charlotte suppressed the nervousness and worry in his heart and slowed down his tone. "Dad, I called to ask if Tianyin has come home." Shinta Ren said, "No, you went out together this morning and haven't come back yet. I called Mingmei, but I couldn't get through." Charlotte was stunned for a moment. He suddenly realized that the mobile phone that the doctor found on Fu Mingmei's body was not Fu Mingmei's mobile phone, but someone deliberately put it on her. The doctor who called him also said that he was the only contact on the mobile phone. "Lei, what happened?" Shinta Ren suddenly became nervous. Charlotte said, "It's okay. Don't worry. Maybe she's not in the service area. Okay, I'm going to find her. I know where she is. I'll call you as soon as I find her." "Okay, drive slowly," Shinta Ren urged. Charlotte hung up the phone. At this moment, although he hadn't received any information, he was more or less certain that Shinta Tianyin had been kidnapped. Ding ling ling, ding ling ling. The phone in his hand suddenly rang. It was an unknown number he had never seen before. Charlotte took a deep breath and answered the call. "Who is it?" A man's deep voice came from the phone. "Charlotte, it's me." Charlotte said, "Calm down. How much do you want? Name your price." "Huh, it seems like you already know what happened." The man's voice said, "Listen carefully. I won't repeat it a second time. Shinta Tianyin is in our hands. Don't call the police. Prepare 200 million in cash immediately and arrive in Baoding in 2 hours. I will contact you again at that time." Charlotte said, 2 hours, 200 million in cash. Now that the bank is closed, how can I give you the money? Even if it was the normal working hours of the bank, I wouldn't be able to withdraw such a large amount of money in 2 hours. What's more, I have to arrive in Baoding during this time. Do you think a bank transfer will do? You provide the account number, and I will transfer it to you as soon as I see her." The man was silent for a moment, and then said, "Bank transfer is fine, but the ransom is 300 million. See you in Baoding in 2 hours. Remember, don't call the police. Otherwise, you will see her dead body." "I won't call the police. Let me hear her voice." Charlotte forced himself to calm down. "Woo, Charlotte, no." Shinta Tiannin's voice came from the phone, but it soon disappeared. A few seconds later, the man's voice came from the phone again. "You have confirmed her situation. Go, don't be late." After that, he hung up the phone. Charlotte put away the phone and rushed to the hospital parking lot. The night was vast, the neon lights were flashing, and the cars were coming and going on the street. A Chevrolet Suburban was madly speeding down the street, flashing all the lights as if it was a wild beast. In the car, Charlotte's brows were tightly knitted, and his mind was preoccupied. He thought of calling Long Bing or Tang Yuyin to ask for 101 innings' help, which seemed to be a very wise choice. However, after this idea came up, he suddenly gave up when he was about to do so. "I can't do that." At this moment, his brain was working at an extreme speed. If it was an ordinary kidnapper, Fu Mingmei could handle it. When Shinta Tianyin went out, in addition to Fu Mingmei, his unshakable personal bodyguard, he would also bring 4 male bodyguards with him. Those people were also professional bodyguards with extraordinary skills. With this kind of bodyguard configuration, how could an ordinary kidnapper kidnap Shinta Tianyin? If it was not an ordinary kidnapper, then who could it be? Before knowing the other party's strength, Rashly calling Long Bing and Tang Yuyin to ask for 101 innings' help would only bring bad results. The person who called asked for 200 million in cash. I suggested a bank transfer, and he agreed without much consideration. Obviously, he had expected this possibility. If it was a bank transfer, he could have asked for 1 billion, or even more, because he kidnapped Tianyin. However, he only increased the ransom by 100 million. Why? Charlotte's heart was filled with doubts, and he could not understand it. His brain was still thinking and analyzing at high speed. Just now, when the man spoke, there was wind in the phone. Fu Mingmei was discovered not too long ago. Could it be that the kidnappers are now on the way to Baoding with Tianyin? The wind I heard was caused by the gap in the car window. If that's the case, why do they have to do it in Baoding? They could complete the transaction in the suburbs of the capital city. What are they hiding from? The more he analyzed, the more scared Charlotte became. He had a hunch that this was not an ordinary kidnapping. The other party might have a purpose other than ransom. Moreover, it was very likely that the other party knew his identity. They insisted on doing the transaction in Baoding to avoid 101 innings. With that thought, Charlotte did not dare to call Long Bing and Tang Yuyin. The car drove out of the city, entered the highway, and went straight to Baoding. There were many cars on the highway, and the kidnapper's car was among them. However, he could not know which car it was. Not long after entering the highway, Charlotte dialed Gu Qian's phone. Gu Qian's phone was not turned off. It was quickly picked up. "Charlotte, what's the matter?" Gu Qian's voice came from the phone. "Do you know where Tianyin went?" Charlotte calmed his emotions, and his voice was calm as he asked tentatively. It was Gu Qian's voice. "I don't know. I went home after the negotiation with enchantment." "You started the negotiation so soon. You know Tianyin's personality. She won't change her mind once she makes a decision. She's also a person who pursues efficiency. Since she's already fallen out with the God Domain Corporation, it doesn't matter if we talk now or later." "Didn't the God Domain Corporation's board of directors participate?" I'm not sure. The God Domain Corporation is single-handedly controlled by Jinjian. For enchantment, she probably only needs to call her father. This matter can actually be easily handled, Gu Qian said. "I see." After a pause, Charlotte said, "Where are you?" "Didn't I tell you just now?" "I'm at home." Gu Qian said, "You're a little strange today. Why are you asking me such a strange question?" "No, I heard that your ambient sound is a little messy." "Oh, so that's the reason. I'm on a balcony. There's someone downstairs," Gu Qian said. "That's it then. I won't disturb you anymore." Charlotte hung up the phone. Charlotte's eyes were cold, and his heart was even colder. He did not hear any ambient sound just now. He was just testing her, but Gu Qian said she was on the balcony. Was she feeling guilty, or was she hiding something? Could it be that both Gu Qian and enchantment participated in this kidnapping? If that's the case, I'll take your lives. Charlotte was burning with rage. Although this was just a guess, once he found out, he would definitely take revenge. What he hated the most was when someone attacked the people around him, let alone his fiancée. An hour later, Charlotte entered the Baoding city area. He parked the car by the roadside and called the kidnapper's phone that he had received earlier. However, the phone was turned off. His heart immediately sank. The other party was well prepared. He was out in the open, and the other party was in the dark. Tonight's matter was extremely dangerous. Charlotte opened the trunk of the Chevrolet Suburban off-road van. Inside was the XL 2500 sniper rifle that he had modified. This was not the first time he had experienced a life and death situation. In the past, as long as he had a sniper rifle in his hand, he would feel very safe and confident. However, this time was different. He did not feel the slightest bit of security. Not for anything else, but because Tianyin was in the hands of the kidnapper. Charlotte closed the trunk, looked around, and then entered a supermarket on the street. He bought a small hunting knife in the supermarket and hid it in his socks. There were also a few needles for the soles of shoes, which he hid in the soles of his shoes and in his underwear. After returning to the car and waiting for less than 10 minutes, his cell phone rang. This time, it was another strange number, but the person who spoke was the same. Where are you now? The man's voice was still so low, cold, and without the slightest emotion. Charlotte said, I'm now in the Baoding City area. Out of the Baoding City area, go east, Shuntian chemical plant. I'll wait for you there, said the man. Charlotte said, I want to hear Tianin's voice. Woo! Charlotte, don't come. Shintu Tianin's voice, with a crying voice, was full of fear and despair. Don't be afraid. I'll take you home, said Charlotte. The man's voice came from the phone. Well, let's go. Don't play any tricks, or I'll kill her. Calm down. You're asking for money, not a disaster. I'll pay you. You take the money and leave. I'll take her home, said Charlotte. Humph. The man snorted coldly, then hung up the phone. Charlotte started the engine and drove east. Half an hour later, under the guidance of the car navigator, the Chevrolet Suburban off-road van came to a remote road in the suburbs. At the end of the road was a dilapidated factory without lights. It was dark. Charlotte looked at the watch on his wrist. There were still 10 minutes left before the kidnapper's request of 2 hours. The kidnapper calculated the time very accurately. Chapter 424. The chemical plant at the end of the road was the SF Foam chemical plant. When Charlotte saw it, he was actually 2 kilometers away from the abandoned chemical plant. In fact, he not only saw the chemical plant, he even saw a sniper on top of a water tower and 2 gunmen hiding inside the gate. Although he only found 3 people, Charlotte was sure that there were more people, but because of the distance, he couldn't see the existence of other targets. There's a sniper. This is definitely not an ordinary kidnapper. His previous judgment was correct. Charlotte had basically confirmed this point. Xia Lei drove the Chevrolet Suburban, which did not have its headlights on, onto a rural road on the side of the road. Then, he crashed the car into a forest that was taller than a person. Then, he got out of the car, took out the XL 2500 sniper rifle that he had personally modified from the trunk, and installed the matching silencer on the barrel. Under the cover of the night, Charlotte quickly approached the abandoned chemical plant in the wasteland beside the road. The trees and grass in the wasteland became a good cover. He sneaked and ran in the front, like a bloodthirsty wolf. Princess Yong Mei followed him tirelessly, always keeping a few steps away from him. She had no clothes, but she was like a jade rabbit. As she ran, the front of her chest rippled with turbulent waves, extremely alluring. Unfortunately, Charlotte didn't have the slightest intention to pay attention to her. When he was 3 kilometers away from the plant, Charlotte stopped. He put the XL 2500 sniper rifle on the branch of a tree, then adjusted the direction of the muzzle, and aimed at the sniper on top of the water tower. The sniper's head was covered with a headgear. Just now, he couldn't clearly see the facial features of the sniper, because the distance of observation was more than 4 kilometers, which was the limit of his left eye's vision. At that distance, he could only see a vague human body, unable to see the subtle features. Now, at a distance of 3 kilometers, the features of the sniper were very clear in his left eye's vision. The sniper was tall, very strong, and the eyes that were exposed from the headgear were also blue. He was a Westerner. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Westerners, could they be from the CIA? Then, Charlotte observed the gunmen on both sides of the door. As expected, they were not Asians. One of them was black, and the other was white. Ding-ling-ling, ding-ling-ling. His cell phone suddenly rang. The caller ID was an unknown number, but Charlotte knew who it was. He picked up the phone and said, "Tell me, I'm almost there. You can't even wait for a few minutes, can you? I know you're here." It was still that man's voice, low and cold. "I also know that you are very powerful, but I advise you not to mess around. I will kill Shinda Tianin as soon as I'm sure that something has happened to my people." Charlotte's heart sank. Now, as long as he pulled the trigger, the sniper lying on the water tower would report to hell. Killing that person was as easy as stepping on an ant, but he didn't dare to do that now. "Who are you?" After a brief silence, Charlotte probed. "People who need money." The other party sneered. "I know you are nearby. If you don't show up in the last 10 minutes, I will kill Shinta Tianin. If that happens, you will die too." Charlotte's voice was cold. "So, We should try to avoid that situation. You give us the money, and we will let him go. This is good for everyone, the other party said. 10 minutes. We will make the deal. Charlotte hung up the phone and quickly ran back. 10 minutes later, the Chevrolet Suburban arrived at the entrance of the abandoned chemical plant. The headlights of the car were bright, and the two gunmen on the inside of the gate opened the rusty iron gate. Charlotte continued to drive forward. His eyes quickly scanned the buildings on both sides and in front of him. He saw more people, a total of 12 gunmen, and Tianyin. She was restrained by two gunmen in a warehouse. Her head was covered, and her hands were tied with plastic straps. There was a bruise on her left calf that was exposed in the air. It seemed that she had been kicked by someone. Seeing the bruise on Tianyin's leg, Charlotte's eyebrows suddenly jumped, and his eyes were scary. These people dared to hit his woman. Whoosh! A Ford Raptor in front of the warehouse suddenly turned on its headlights, and a bright light shone. The light did not affect Charlotte's left eye's vision, but he still pretended to avoid it, and then used his hand to cover his eyes. Through the gap between his fingers, Charlotte saw a black man standing in front of the Ford Raptor. The black man was tall and very burly. He was wearing a combat uniform with several weapons hanging on his belt, and he also held an M16A1 assault rifle in his hand. He was none other than the CIB Asia director, Lance Big. But Charlotte did not know his name, and this was the first time the two met. However, based on these people's weapons, temperament, and combat skills, Charlotte was already certain that the people who kidnapped Tianyin were from the CIB. "Get out of the car," Lance Big said loudly. Charlotte opened the door and got out of the car. Next to the car door, a CIB agent came over and searched Charlotte's body. Someone even searched Xia Lei's Chevrolet Suburban off-road van. Soon, the hunting knife and gun that Charlotte hid on his body were found, but the needles that were inserted into the soles of his shoes were not found. The agent who searched the Chevrolet Suburban also finished searching the vehicle, but he did not find any weapons. After confirming that he could not shoot to save Tianyin, Charlotte hid the gun in the grass. He was not stupid enough to give the XL 2500 sniper rifle that he personally modified to these people. "Mr. Charlotte, we finally meet." Lance Big walked in front of Charlotte and looked straight into Charlotte's eyes with a victorious smile. "I have waited for this day for a long time. Look, in order to leave a good impression on you, I've even shaved my beard." Lance Big's Mandarin was very good, more fluent than many Chinese. Charlotte took a deep breath. "You are not kidnappers. You are the CIB. Lance Big shrugged, looked left and right, and said with an exaggerated expression, "Did you see that? This is our opponent. Scary, isn't it? Smart, isn't it?" Some people sneered, some people snorted. They seemed to have taken Landsberger's words as sarcasm. Their smart and terrifying opponent was still their prisoner. Faced with such sarcasm, Charlotte was indifferent. "You are invading China with weapons. Do you know the consequences of this? This will cause a violent reaction from China. The consequences will be severe, and no one can bear this responsibility." Lance Big shook his head. "No one will know," Charlotte said. "You should know that there is no wall in this world that does not have a crack." Lance Big smiled disdainfully. "Then we will tear down this wall. You know that the UA has the power to do so. We have a professional team to evaluate the risk of this operation. If this operation is exposed, the worst result is that China will just argue with us. Other than this, what else can you do? Do you want to use missiles to bomb our military bases in Asia? Do you want to attack our ships?" Ha! This was a blatant provocation and contempt. Weak countries had no diplomacy. The UA's fighter jets could enter some countries unscrupulously and bomb their so-called terrorist targets. However, the ones who were killed the most were innocent civilians. Which of those countries that had been ravaged by war could do anything to the UA? Although China was not one of those weak countries and had the strongest military in Asia, when faced with a huge opponent like the UA, they could only defend themselves. They did not have the ability to take the initiative to attack. Therefore, even if this matter was discovered, China could not declare war on the UA, nor would it take the initiative to attack the UA's military targets. From his point of view, Lance Big was telling the truth. The law that the world had followed since ancient times was the law of the jungle. The UA, which was strong enough to defeat any country, could indeed be so unscrupulous. There was anger in Xia Lei's heart, but he suppressed it. He could maintain his calm. I'm already in your hands. It's time for you to fulfill your promise and let Shinta Tianyin go. No hurry. Lance Big said, I am curious. You have already guessed our identity. Why did you still come? You could have run away. You know the answer, Charlotte said coldly. Shinta Tianyin is my fiancée. She is innocent. Let her go. At this time, 2 CIB agents in the warehouse brought Shinta Tianyin out. One of the agents reached out and pulled off the mask on Shinta Tianyin's head. Seeing Charlotte, Shinta Tianyin suddenly cried, Go! Don't worry about me. Shut up. A CIB agent hit the back of Shinta Tianyin with a gun handle. Shinta Tianyin fell to the ground. Damn it. Charlotte lost control and rushed forward. Don't move. Lance Big suddenly raised the M16A1 assault rifle in his hand and pointed it at Charlotte's head. On the other side, the agent who hit Shinta Tianyin with the gun handle also pointed at Shinta Tianyin's head and said in English, Don't move, or your woman will be the first to die. Charlotte stopped abruptly and then shouted, Let her go. I will go with you. Lance Big sneered. Mr. Charlotte, you are really an infatuated and naive man. Do you think I will let your woman go? No, letting her go will only bring us trouble. You are a very difficult opponent. With this woman in our hands, you will be much more obedient. So, we will bring her out of China. If you cooperate, she will live. If you don't, she will die. Charlotte clenched his teeth. The anger in his heart was enough to burn everything, but the situation in front of him left him helpless. This was also the first time he faced such a predicament. The feeling of being at the mercy of others made him feel very painful and helpless. Why were you so stupid? Shinta Tianyin also lost control of her emotions. She shouted at Charlotte, Why did you come when you knew you couldn't save me? You were courting death. You idiot. Because you are my woman, Charlotte said. Even if he had to choose again, he would still do the same. Shinta Tianyin's tears flowed out of her eyes. These tears were shed for Charlotte. Princess Yong Mei stood beside Shinta Tianyin and looked at her curiously. Then, she looked at the CIB agent who hit Shinta Tianyin with a gun handle. Suddenly, she reached her hand toward the agent's head. Charlotte saw this and was surprised. What is she trying to do? Chapter 425. Princess Yong Mei's hand instantly pierced through the CIB agent's head. It was a very strange scene. A soft, snow-white hand pierced through a muscular man's head, but the muscular man didn't feel anything. Princess Yong Mei smirked and retracted her hand. The moment she made her move, Charlotte thought she wanted to kill the CIB agent and would kill him. However, after she retracted her hand, the CIB agent was still alive. He didn't even show any signs of discomfort, let alone death. He finally realized that she couldn't even move a glass of red wine. How could she kill a strong CIB agent? However, this action made Xia Lei discover a new situation. That was, Princess Yong Mei really had a certain level of consciousness and a certain level of emotion. Although he didn't know what kind of existence she was, he was almost certain that she wasn't a projection. Her existence was real. This was a shocking discovery, but now wasn't the time to study Princess Yong Mei or the ancient alloy. Soon, Charlotte's thoughts returned to reality. He was facing a group of well-trained CIB agents armed to the teeth. One careless move, and he would be doomed. Why are you staring at me? Asshole! The CIB agent with the gun pointed at Shinta Tianyin's head saw Charlotte staring at him. He suddenly took a step forward and kicked Charlotte's abdomen. The kick was so heavy that Charlotte took 2 steps back before regaining his balance. He felt a sharp pain in his abdomen, but he didn't even frown. What do you want? Shinta Tianyin said angrily. Let him go, and I'll give you money. How much do you want? 5 billion. I'll give you 5 billion. Shut up. The CIB agent who kicked Charlotte raised his gun again. Shinta Tianyin glared at him. There was no fear in his eyes, only anger. Enough. Hank. Landsberger stopped him. This woman is of great value to us. She's very delicate. If anything happens to her, we'll be in trouble. The CIB agent called Hank finally stopped. However, Charlotte had already memorized his name. Cuff him and take them away, Landsberg ordered. An agent came up and tied a plastic bandage around Charlotte. Then, he pushed Charlotte and said rudely, "Get in the car." Charlotte reached out to open the car door, but was kicked by the agent. The agent mocked, "You don't have the right to sit on the sofa. The cargo compartment is where you should be." Charlotte was pushed to the back of the Ford Raptor. The agent opened the lid and let Charlotte climb in. Shinatianin was also pushed over. Hank grabbed him by the waist and violently threw him into the cargo compartment. "Don't be afraid. I'll take you home." Charlotte comforted her, using his legs as a pillow to avoid the cold, hard bottom of the truck hitting her back. Shinatianin's body trembled slightly. Although Charlotte gave her a certain sense of security, it was far from enough. She couldn't help but think of the image of being humiliated by these people, or even being killed by them. No matter which one it was, it made her feel terrified. Princess Young may seem to be the only one who was relaxed and calm the whole time. Just after Shinatianin was thrown into the car, she also floated into the car and stayed with Charlotte. Now, no matter what she did, Charlotte didn't care. Landsberger appeared at the back of the car with 2 syringes in his hands and a teasing smile on his face. "I have to admit that you're a very good man, but I think the chances of you bringing her home are 0. Go to sleep. When you wake up, you'll find yourself on our warship. Mr. Xia, get ready to welcome your new life." Charlotte suppressed the anger in his heart. "What's your name?" Landsberger froze for a moment and suddenly laughed. "What do you want? Do you want to take revenge on me?" He looked at his men beside him and laughed even louder. "Did you hear that? He wants to take revenge on me?" There was a burst of laughter. "I'll give you one last chance. Let go of Shinatianin." Charlotte said coldly, "Are you threatening me? If I don't let go, what will you do?" Landsberger didn't take Charlotte's threats seriously. "I'll kill you. Even if I go to the United States, I'll still kill you," Charlotte said. Landsberger suddenly punched Charlotte in the face. Charlotte's head suddenly hit the car with a muffled sound. Shinatianin screamed and threw herself at Charlotte, using her body to protect Charlotte. "What a lovey-dovey couple." Landsberger sneered and then stabbed a syringe into Shinatianin's snow-white neck. With a press of his thumb, the anesthetic liquid in the syringe was pushed into Shinatianin's body. Shinatianin fell on Charlotte's body and lost consciousness. Landsberger grabbed Charlotte's collar and dragged Charlotte in front of him. Then, he stabbed the remaining syringe into Charlotte's neck. Charlotte didn't resist and let Landsberger push the anesthetic liquid into his body. His body was immune to anesthetics. This secret was only known by Xioshin's men. However, the people who knew this secret were all dead. So, Landsberger didn't know this at all. However, when Landsberger pushed the anesthetic liquid into his body, Charlotte shook his head on purpose and then fell into the carriage. Princess Yongmei frowned and suddenly reached out to grab Landsberger's head. However, it was still useless. Her hand went through Landsberger's head in an instant, but Landsberger was completely fine. "Let's go." Landsberger reached out and closed the door of the carriage. Princess Yongmei bared her teeth at the carriage. She looked like an angry wild cat, full of aggression. This scene naturally didn't escape Charlotte's eyes, even though it was dark in the carriage. Charlotte thought to himself, "If others hurt me, she will show her aggression and attack those who hurt me. Even though it's useless, she has this awareness. It seems that my decision to let her out was the right one. If she comes into contact with the outside world, she will have different reactions. From these reactions, I might be able to find clues to decipher the ancient alloy in the bronze treasure book." But at this moment, Hank's voice suddenly came from outside the carriage. It was full of surprise. "Did you guys hear something?" "What sound?" Someone said. "I didn't hear anything. Are you okay?" Hank's voice said, "Damn, I did hear something, but I can't understand it. It's so weird." "Get in the carriage." Landsberger's voice said, "We don't have time to waste. Quick, quick, quick." Charlotte's left, I looked through the carriage and saw Hank, who was about to get in the carriage, shaking his head vigorously. It seemed that he heard something at this time, so much so that he wanted to get rid of those sounds. Charlotte's gaze then moved to Princess Youngmei. Princess Youngmei also stared at him with an innocent expression on her face. She used her hand to go through Hank's head, and Hank heard a strange sound. Isn't this the same situation as the two dead scientists in the laboratory? Could it be that the scientists who went crazy and died were all because of her? Charlotte thought of this possibility, but he immediately denied it. Because when the two dead scientists were killed, Princess Youngmei didn't appear, which meant that the death of the two scientists was more related to the ancient alloy and the bronze treasure book. Then, he thought of another possibility. Princess Youngmei might have the same energy or attribute as the ancient alloy or the bronze treasure book, and this energy or attribute could make people go crazy or die. This possibility was actually very high because Princess Youngmei could enter the ancient alloy, and the two pieces of ancient alloy were like her body in this world. Just as Charlotte was guessing, the Ford Raptor started. Not only this car, but the CIB agents also had two off-road vehicles. They didn't drive away in Charlotte's Chevrolet Suburban. After leaving the abandoned factory, one off-road vehicle drove in front, the other one followed, and the Ford Raptor was in the middle. The three cars sped along the quiet and deserted road at high speed. Charlotte reached into his pants and pulled out a shoe sole needle from the fabric of his underwear. Then, he pierced the plastic band with the needle. He poked 5 holes in a row, destroying the integrity of the band. Then, he clenched his hands in a fists and struggled to the outside. Crack! With a soft sound, the plastic band broke. Charlotte used the same method to open the plastic band on Tian's hand, but she was already unconscious and couldn't feel it. Then, Charlotte used the long needle to open the lock of the car. He held the lock with his hand and pressed it gently to prevent it from locking again and to prevent it from suddenly popping open. This was the reason why he bought and hid the needle. The skill he learned from the Tang family allowed him to use the shoe sole needle as a weapon, and the skill he learned from Qin Xiang allowed him to open the lock and escape. The 3 cars quickly drove to the place where Charlotte hid the car. On both sides of the road were thick bushes and weeds. If they drove any further, it would be the highway, and it would be difficult to escape. Now's the time. Charlotte suddenly let go of the car door. When the door bounced up, he picked up Tianyin and threw himself at the bushes on the side of the road. Crash! A large area of the bushes was flattened. Just as Charlotte and Tianyin fell to the ground, the people in the car behind completed the warning. The 3 cars stopped almost at the same time. The doors opened, and 12 CIB agents quickly got out. Before anyone could catch up, Charlotte had already run into the bushes with Tianyin. Tut tut tut, tut tut tut. Hank held the M16, a 1 assault rifle equipped with a silencer, and fired in the direction Charlotte escaped. Bastard! Landsbig pressed down on Hank's gun and roared, "We want someone alive, not a dead person." Hank shook his head with a strange look on his face. "I don't know what's going on. It's like someone is talking in my head. Hum hum hum. A lot of people. Go back and see a psychiatrist." As soon as he finished, Landsbig suddenly looked behind him and roared, "Who is it?" Including Landsbig, several CIB agents looked behind them cautiously, but other than the weeds and a large patch of bushes that were 2 to 3 meters tall, they didn't see anything. Landsberger shook his head vigorously. Chase them," he said. "No matter what, we have to catch him. He's carrying a woman. He can't have gone far." A group of CIB agents split into 3 groups. 2 groups attacked from the left and right, and they quickly followed the path of Charlotte's escape. They were all CIB elites. Although they didn't know why the anesthetic lost its effect, they believed that in this situation, it wouldn't be a problem to catch up with Charlotte and capture him again. Chapter 426. There were no stars or moon in the night sky. Gray clouds covered the sky, and visibility was very low. However, this didn't cause much trouble for the CIB team because they had night vision devices. Langsbig led 3 people to follow the tracks left by Charlotte. At the same time, he received information from the other two teams and commanded them. Hank was right next to him. Although Hank had a bad temper and was very violent, Hank was the most capable person under him. He had been through hundreds of battles. Langsbyg's trust in Hank was unquestionable. Damn it, how did that kid wake up? Hank cursed. Could it be that the anesthetic we took was fake? We'll know the answer when we catch him, Langsbyg said. Hank spat on the ground. That guy is as annoying as these belaws. When we catch him, I will break his knees. Let's see if he can still run. Langsbygg said, luckily he doesn't have a gun. Otherwise, we would be in danger. Is he a good shot? I don't think so. Hank suddenly turned around. He seemed to have heard something again, buzzing. Langsbygg strangely held his head with his hands and looked like he was in pain. A CIB agent asked in confusion, Boss, what's wrong? Nothing, just a headache. Continue to chase. Langsbygg endured the pain and continued to move forward. Just then, the tracks left by Charlotte suddenly disappeared. The four people stopped. Just then, a CIB agent's voice came from the communicator. I think we saw him. Where? Langsbygg said excitedly. Report the location. He is... The communicator suddenly went silent. Langsbyg's expression suddenly became nervous. Suddenly, another voice came from the communicator. He is sniping us. The voice of the person who spoke disappeared again. Speak. Langsbygg roared. Asshole. The team that reported Charlotte's tracks was the team on the left. The four CIB agents were equipped with night vision devices. But before they could say Charlotte's location, all four of them were sniped. There was no doubt about it, because if someone was still alive, there would be gunshots coming from the left, and someone would report it. However, neither of these two situations occurred. What else could it be other than that all four of them were dead? 222. Suddenly, a gunshot came from the right. Where is he? Someone shouted. Damn it, I can't see him. Someone was shot. Retreat. Retreat. The right side was in chaos. The situation was urgent, and the team on the right didn't even have time to report to Langsbygg. Langsbygg and Hank sprinted to the right, and the other two CIB agents followed closely behind with their M16A1 assault rifles. They moved forward while cautiously observing their surroundings. Although the night vision device allowed them to see their surroundings clearly in the dark, their range of vision was limited. They couldn't see too far away at all. A few minutes later, Langsbygg arrived at the place where the gunshots came from. There were 4 corpses lying in a patch of grass. Every single one of them had been shot in the head. Their marksmanship was so accurate that it made people shudder. The teams on the left and right were eliminated in just a few minutes. The result was hard for Langsbygg and Hank to accept. Fear spread silently. That guy had a sniper rifle here. Does he know how we're going to deal with him? Langsbygg was terrified. He already wanted to retreat, but he wasn't willing to. If they couldn't catch Charlotte after kidnapping Shinda Tianyin, they might not have the chance to catch him in the future. However, if they continued to move and fought Charlotte in such an environment with a gun in his hand, the chance of winning was almost zero. Retreat. Langsbygg made the decision immediately. Puff. Just as Langsbygg's voice faded, a bullet flew over and instantly pierced into the head of an agent. Blood and brain matter splattered out from the torn head, shooting far away. The remaining 3 agents dropped to the ground at almost the same time. Hank raised his gun and fired in the direction of the bullet. The bullet shell bounced, and the grass pole that was taller than a person fell to the side. Puff! Another bullet flew and mercilessly pierced into the head of a CIB agent, and his head was only a foot above the ground. How is this possible? Langsbygg's back was numb, and he was covered in cold sweat. In this situation, unless Charlotte fired at a very close distance, he wouldn't have the chance to kill the target from this angle. Not to mention anything else. Just the dense grass here was an insurmountable visual obstacle. Unless he could see through this patch of banana grass. It must be... Langsbygg lost control. I have to report this situation to the headquarters. What AE? Hank quickly changed the clip. You don't know. Don't ask. Cover me. Langsbygg took out a satellite phone. Hank didn't ask any more questions and raised his gun to shoot blindly again. Screech. A bullet flew over and instantly tore apart Landsbyg's wrist. The satellite phone in his hand fell to the ground. Landsbyg screamed in pain. 2/3 of his wrist was torn off, and only a layer of skin was left. 3 seconds later, the same thing happened to Hank. His right wrist holding the gun was torn apart by the bullet, and his palm fell to the ground. Screech! The sound of footsteps came from the depths of the grass, and it was coming this way. "Damn it!" Hank roared. He crawled up and pulled out the pistol from his belt with his remaining left hand. But before he could shoot, a bullet flew from the front and hit his left arm. The penetrating power of a sniper rifle bullet was terrifying. The bones in his left arm were broken, and a large chunk of his muscle was torn off. Hank, a battle-hardened CIB agent, became completely useless. He fell to the ground with a thud. However, he was strong enough to not faint after suffering such a serious injury. He lay on the ground, gasping for air. The fear of death attacked every nerve in his body. Landsbyg crawled 2 steps and reached for the satellite phone that fell to the ground. Puff! A bullet flew over, and Landsbyg's palm that just reached for the satellite phone exploded. Blood, flesh, and mud exploded together. The scene was like a naughty child setting off a firecracker in the mud. The excruciating pain almost made Landsbyg faint, but he held on with all his might. He finally saw the man who walked out from the bushes. It was Xiaolei. Charlotte held his sniper rifle, and his expression was calm without any expression. Landsbyg gasped, "Yi Yuan, arrest me." Charlotte said, "Arrest you? Should I help you call the ambulance and ask the doctor to rush over to stop the bleeding and treat you? You can't kill me." "No, you can't." Landsbyg bit the bullet and said, "I am the director of CIB Asia. My rank is higher than you think." Charlotte stopped beside Hank and looked down at Hank, who was lying on the ground. "Right, you kicked my woman. Which leg did you use?" Hank froze for a moment and suddenly roared, "Shoot me! Kill me!" "Shoot you? Do you still deserve to be shot?" Charlotte raised his leg and stepped on Hank's broken wrist. "Ah!" Hank screamed. His chest expanded violently, and he couldn't breathe. However, even if he stuffed all the oxygen in the world into his lungs, he couldn't get rid of the pain he was suffering at the moment. "Charlotte," Landsbyg roared, "we are Americans. You should know the consequences of doing this." Charlotte smiled. "Thank you for reminding me. I would have forgotten if you didn't remind me. Just now, it was you so-called Americans who kidnapped my woman, injected me with anesthesia, and wanted to take me to America. I begged you to let go of my woman, and I was willing to go with you. What did you say?" Landsbyg was speechless. He was very arrogant before, but he couldn't be arrogant now. Before, Charlotte was a fish on his chopping board, and he could cut him up at will. But now, he was Charlotte's fish, waiting to be cut up. After changing positions, he realized that it really wasn't a good feeling. Princess Yong Mei stood beside Charlotte, looking at Hank, who was lying on the ground with innocent eyes. She looked like she was thinking about something. Hank suddenly mumbled something, but there were no specific words, and there were no Chinese syllables. His voice was very vague and strange. His expression was also one of fear. Charlotte was shocked. This guy was very tough just now. How did he suddenly become like this? It's like he's crazy. What did you do to him? Landsbyg was also nervous. In his eyes, Charlotte was undoubtedly an unknown monster. Only then did Charlotte put his thoughts aside. He let go of the foot that was stepping on Hank's broken wrist and slowly walked to Landsbyg's side. He wouldn't shoot Hank. If he did, it would be equivalent to an execution at close range. It wouldn't be easy to explain to 101 innings why he didn't leave him alive. Also, he didn't have to do this. With Hank's injuries and the blood he was losing, he wouldn't live for more than half an hour. Also, in this half an hour, he could also observe the changes in Hank's body and collect information related to Princess Yongmei. Charlotte squatted beside Landsbyg and looked at him. "Tell me, how did you kidnap my woman?" Landsbyg's eyes flickered as he avoided Charlotte's gaze. "Tell me, what role did Xiaoxian and Gu Qian play in this?" Charlotte continued to probe. "Call the ambulance, and I'll tell you," Landsbyg said. Charlotte shook his head. "Even if you don't tell me, I know that Inshotian and Gu Qian are definitely involved. Without Inshotian and Gu Qian's help, you wouldn't dare to carry out such an operation in a place like Jing City. Isn't that right? A dozen CIB agents kidnapped the richest woman in China in Jing City. If there wasn't any response from 101 innings, then it would be meaningless. The reason why there wasn't any response from 101 innings meant that there was a mole helping them. After thinking about it, other than Gu Qian and Inshotian, who else had this kind of ability? Who else had this kind of motive? Landsbygd shut his mouth and didn't say a word. Charlotte was silent for a moment. Suddenly, he reached out and broke a reed. He stabbed the sharp reed into the wound on Landsbygd's broken wrist. A dash! Landsbygd screamed as his entire body trembled. Charlotte continued to stab the reed into Landsbygd's flesh as he applied pressure. Why are you still holding on? I really don't dare to kill you. After all, your identity is very special. Killing you will cause a lot of trouble. But if you continue to stall for time, you will die from excessive blood loss before I can kill you. Tell me, what role did Gu Qian and Inshotian play in this? I'll call the ambulance immediately. On one side was unbearable torture, and on the other side was the hope of survival. Landsbygd's psychological defense was quickly collapsing. Chapter 427. Charlotte had never been a cruel person, but at that moment, he was definitely a cruel and evil devil. Landsbygd screamed and wailed under his hands. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead, but there was no mercy in his eyes. His hands were merciless, and he continued to stab the sharp pole into Landsbygd's flesh again and again, stabbing and twisting. Every movement brought severe pain to Landsbygd. Tell me what I want to know, and you can live. As he tortured, Charlotte launched a psychological attack. You should know that with your identity, you will never be tried in China. You will be sent back to the United States, and you will become a hero. Enough. Landsbygd's mind was in a daze, and his vision was blurred. I can actually help you stop the bleeding, as long as you tell me what I want to know, Charlotte said. Gu Qian. Landsbygd's psychological defense finally collapsed. Gu Qian, she is one of us. Charlotte was stunned. He guessed that Gu Qian was involved in the kidnapping of Shinda Tianyin because Gu Qian wanted to take revenge on him, but he didn't expect Gu Qian to be from the CIB. Her father is missing, and her brother is in prison. We knew about this, and we have been watching her since a long time ago. Once in Haizhu at the Ensemble of Heroes, we kidnapped her. Landsbygd continued. We did her ideological work and trained her. Then, she returned to China and became Shinda Tiannin's assistant. She gained Shinda Tiannin's trust. She became Shinda Tiannin's assistant to get close to me. Charlotte suddenly understood. Landsbygd said, yes, she's a very smart woman. She knew that you like Shinda Tiannin. She's been trying to get you and Shinda Tiannin together. On the one hand, she can gain your and Shinda Tiannin's trust, and on the other hand, she is preparing for this operation. Gu Qian, this woman is so scheming. What about Inshotian? Charlotte asked. What role did he play in this operation? Landsbygd said. He set up a trap to lure Shinda Tiannin to negotiate with him. Gu Qian acted as a spy, and we only sent 2 people to ambush at the negotiation site. They stabbed Shinda Tiannin's bodyguards and kidnapped Shinda Tiannin. Charlotte had already experienced what happened next, so there was no need for Landsbygd to continue. Where's Liang Xiao? For some reason, Charlotte asked about her situation. Damn it! How many more questions do you have? Landsbygd said angrily. He felt like he was being played. Charlotte said, one last question. She failed her mission and was excluded from this operation. Landsbygd said she was in charge of getting an XL 2500 sniper rifle designed by you and went to Venezuela not long ago. Now, she should be in the United States. I don't know her whereabouts. Fortunately, Liang Xiao didn't participate in this operation. Otherwise, Charlotte might shoot her. Just thinking about shooting Liang Xiao gave him a headache, let alone doing it. I have answered all your questions. Stop the bleeding. Hurry up. Landsbygd urged. His heart was beating so fast that he couldn't hold on any longer. No problem. I'm a man of my word. Charlotte threw away the straw in his hand and suddenly said, "Oh no, I don't have a hemostatic pack. What should I do?" "You." Landsbygd wanted to curse the man in front of him, but then he begged, "Then call an ambulance for me, please." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "You said you're the director of CIB Asia, a big shot, but I think you're not as brave as your subordinate Hank. Do you still have the desire to live now? Or do you want to bring everything you know back to the United States? Do you think I will let that happen?" "AE, what happened to you?" "I don't mind telling you, but I am not interested," Charlotte said indifferently. "Why should I satisfy your curiosity? You will go to hell. I curse you." Landsbygd's voice was weak. "Enjoy your last bit of time." Charlotte shifted his gaze to Hank. Hank twitched a few times and stopped breathing. His death was a little faster than Xia Lei had expected. Xia Lei thought to himself, Hank is a very strong professional agent. His life force is much stronger than that of a normal person. I estimate that he had half an hour, but only half of that time has passed. How'd he die? Is it because of Princess Yongmei? Charlotte's gaze shifted to Princess Yongmei again. When he looked over, he was stunned because he saw Princess Yongmei smiling at Hank's corpse. That smile was brilliant and beautiful, giving off the feeling of 100 flowers blooming. Hank's early death was really related to her. Could she kill someone? As soon as this thought popped up, Xia Lei felt a chill run down his spine, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Do you want to know AE's secret? Save me. I will tell you." Landsbygd's voice was very weak. Charlotte sneered. "With your level, you probably only know of AE's existence. Do you know its secret? I don't think so. Otherwise, I would have asked you." "You cough." A strange sound came from Hank's throat, and then he stopped breathing. He didn't give up until the last moment, but Charlotte didn't care. The survival of the CIA members would be a huge problem, and their deaths would be the best outcome. China would pretend nothing happened, and the United States would deny the operation and not even acknowledge the identity of these people. From Charlotte's point of view, he only killed a group of armed kidnappers. China wouldn't bother him, and the United States couldn't do anything to him. Xia Lei left this place filled with the smell of blood and walked forward for about 500 meters before arriving at a patch of grass. Shinta Tianyin lay quietly in the underbrush, very peaceful. She didn't know what happened, and she didn't feel fear. Charlotte sat down, held her in his arms, and removed the grass from her hair. During the escape, her clothes were torn by the grass leaves. There were many tears on her clothes, and her skin was full of red wounds. These wounds made Charlotte's heart ache. True love is revealed in times of crisis. In the abandoned chemical plant, Shinta Tianyin was faced with more than a dozen CIB agents, but she insisted that he leave. She didn't want to save him and was even willing to pay a ransom of $5 billion for his safety. In the trunk of the Ford Raptor pickup truck, she also used her weak body to protect him and didn't let Landsbygd beat him. Wasn't this kind of friendship enough for him to be touched? If she proposed to Shinta Tianyin because she had a trace of scheming, and he also had a bit of a grudge in his heart, then now the grudge disappeared. Looking at Shinta Tianyin in his arms, Charlotte's heart was full of love and tenderness. A mosquito suddenly perched on Shinta Tianyin's thigh, which had several wounds, and was ready to suck. Xia Lei slapped down with his palm, instantly flattening the mosquito. Shinta Tianyin's thigh rippled, and a corner of purple lace was revealed under the tattered skirt. The shape was plump and attractive. Charlotte curled the corner of his mouth and scolded himself for being obscene. Then he left the bushes with Shinta Tianyin and walked around the outside of the grass field to the roadside. There were too many mosquitoes in the grass field, and he didn't want those mosquitoes to bite his woman. Back on the road, Charlotte put Shinta Tianyin in the back seat of an off-road vehicle, and then he found a first aid kit in the trunk. Back in the car, he used disinfectant to clean Shinta Tianyin's wounds, cheeks, arms, chest, and thighs. They were too deep and close to the inside of the thighs. He was a little hesitant, but he still lifted Shinta Tianyin's skirt and cleaned it for her. He felt that since Shinta Tianyin was his fiancée, she was going to have children with him sooner or later. What part of her body couldn't he see or touch? At this time, it was very easy for him to see Shinto Tianin's body, but he didn't do so. He wanted to leave that wonderful moment to her and let her show it to him naturally, instead of using his ability to take a peek. After treating Shinto Tianin's wounds, she was still unconscious, and the effect of the anesthetic had not worn off. Charlotte called Long Bing with the phone the CIA had left on Fu Ming Mei and said, "It's me, Charlotte. What's the matter?" Long Bing didn't say much. The CIA kidnapped Shinto Tianin. Long Bing seemed to suddenly get up from the bed, making a little noise. Charlotte said, "Their target is me. Where are you now? Don't act rashly." Long Bing's voice was very nervous. "I'll report it to Boss Sure right now. There's no need. They're all dead." This. Long Bing couldn't say anything. "Don't worry. There won't be any trouble." Charlotte said, "I'm now in the eastern suburbs of Baoding, near the Shunfeng chemical plant. Don't arrange for the Baoding police to come here. Just come here." 1.5 hours, don't leave. Long Bing had already hung up the phone. When the people from Floors 101 came over, it seemed that the only thing they could do was to collect the corpse. Charlotte's gaze moved out of the window, and his eyes turned cold. "Gu Qian and Xiuxian, you'll also pay for this." A peerlessly beautiful face suddenly appeared outside the window, staring straight at Xiao Lei. Caught off guard, Charlotte was startled by her. He said gloomily, "Can you make a sound?" Appearing like a ghost. "Are you trying to scare me to death? Are you a ghost?" "I remember your face," Princess Yongmei said, looking very serious. "Charlotte, I've been waiting for you for a long, long time," Princess Yongmei said again. Charlotte ignored her, because the result would be the same no matter what she said. She could only say these two sentences over and over again. In addition, after tonight's incident, he had to reconsider a problem. That was, if he continued to let Princess Yongmei go, what if she put her hand into someone's head and killed him? After this idea came up, Charlotte couldn't help but look at Shinto Tianin, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, and then looked at Princess Yongmei outside the window. His heart was inexplicably nervous. If Princess Yongmei attacked Shinto Tianin, who could stop her? The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Chapter 428. The people from 101 Innings arrived at the scene in less than half an hour. They did not use a car, but a helicopter. Sherborin personally led the team. Long Bing, Tang Yuyin, and Tang Buochuan were all there, along with a large group of agents from 101 Innings. The bodies were quickly transported away. The scene was also photographed and cleaned up. The doctors from 101 Innings who came along also started treatment on Shinto Tianin, but she had not woken up yet. Charlotte told Sherborin what had happened, then looked at Sherborin to observe his reaction. Sherborin's face was gloomy. As soon as Charlotte finished speaking, he exploded. F***CK. Where do they think we are? Syria or Iraq? How dare they send so many agents to kidnap hostages? They are too arrogant. Then, he patted Charlotte's shoulder hard. Good job. Kill them well. Kill these invaders. Kill as many as they come. Seeing Sherborin's reaction, Charlotte secretly heaved a sigh of relief. But Sherborin changed the topic. Why didn't you leave a single one alive? Charlotte smiled bitterly. Originally, I left 2 alive, but unfortunately, they died from excessive blood loss. I couldn't have left the others alive, even if I wanted to. They were all CIA field agents, and they had experienced hundreds of battles. If I didn't kill them, they would have killed me and Shinto Tianin. Is she okay? She's fine. She's just slightly injured, Charlotte said. Sherborin glanced at Tang Yuyin from the corner of his eye. Then, he moved closer to Charlotte's ear and lowered his voice. Don't you think so? You and Shinto Tianin got engaged, and this happened immediately after. You two are incompatible. Why don't you consider my goddaughter? Charlotte was speechless. I'm just joking with you. Go back and write me a detailed report. Sherborin laughed dryly and said, Don't say in the report that the CIA is after Shinto Tianin's money. I know they're after you. Charlotte was stunned. What did Sherborne mean? Umph. They actually had designs on the ancient alloy piece and the bronze book. They were dreaming. You and Yu Yin should go to Jerusalem as soon as the report is out. I'm afraid the United States already knows about this. We can't delay any longer, Sherborne said. This seemed to be Sherborne's intention. He had guessed the secret of the ancient alloy and the bronze book, but not the AE capsule. Charlotte's nervous heart relaxed a little. However, this was to be expected. The AE capsule was highly classified in the United States. Even the director of the CIA in Asia only knew of its existence. He didn't know the specifics, let alone the agents in China. Boss, sure, I've got some information. Charlotte said. Gu Qian and An Suhyong are also involved in this. Without their help, these CIA agents wouldn't have dared to kidnap Shin Tianyin in a place like Jingdu. The director of the CIA in Asia also admitted that they instigated Gu Qian. Gu Qian is now a member of the CIA. Sherborne's gaze turned cold. You're sure? Charlotte nodded. I'm sure. Do you have evidence? No. However, if we investigate, we'll definitely find something, Charlotte said. Sherborne said, it's easy to catch Gu Qian, but it'll be troublesome to catch An Suhyong. He's Korean, and his father is a Korean politician. Without evidence, Charlotte interrupted him. I'll find evidence. You can't do anything rash. Sherborne warned. Every time you make a move, a lot of people die. If you can't help but kill An Suhyong, you'll be in trouble yourself. Charlotte nodded. I won't act rashly. I'll send someone to catch Gu Qian now. You can interrogate her after they've caught her. Sherborne walked to the side to make a call and send someone to catch her. However, Charlotte had a different opinion. Gu Qian was no pushover either. She had been hiding by Ishinta Tianyin's side for so long before she was discovered. Would she just sit around and wait for the 101 innings to catch her? He recalled the scene when he called Gu Qian. He had heard a sound similar to the sound of wind. At that time, Gu Qian had probably already driven towards the airport. At this time, she was probably already in the skies overseas. Long Bing walked over and looked at Charlotte, whose clothes were ragged and whose face and hands were covered in small wounds. She said with concern, you should hurry and find a doctor to treat you too. For Shinta Tianyin, you're even willing to throw away your life. Charlotte smiled bitterly. I know what you want to say, but I didn't dare to inform you of the situation at the time. In fact, my decision was correct. If you guys had gotten involved, the CIA would have definitely killed Shinta Tianyin and retreated. They wouldn't have left any survivors or traces behind. I'll let this go, but Long Bing moved closer to Charlotte's ear and lowered her voice. For the trip to Jerusalem, make a request to include me. Charlotte was slightly stunned. His voice was also very soft. Bosher specifically asked for Tang Yuyin to come with me. How can I? Long Bing lifted half of her foot and pressed it down on Charlotte's foot. She stepped on it lightly. He takes care of his goddaughter. Are you going to take care of her too? Or are you to her? You're in charge of the Jerusalem operation. If you specifically asked for me, would the higher-ups not agree? Even if the higher-ups don't agree, don't you know how to throw a little tantrum and insist on taking me? Don't worry. If you take me, I'll take good care of you. Specifically ask for me. Insist on me. And if you take me, I'll take good care of you. These words sounded different coming from the mouth of the iceberg female agent. It felt like they had entered a high-end entertainment city in Dongguan. Charlotte braced himself and nodded. To him, it didn't matter whether Tang Yuyin or Long Bing went. However, if he went with Tang Yuyin, the trip would be awkward. If he went with Long Bing, the situation would be better. Hello. Tang Yuyin seemed to have noticed something. What are you talking about? What's the matter that can't be seen? Long Bing rolled her eyes at Tang Yuyin. What are you talking about? I'm asking when Charlotte is getting married. I'm going to attend the wedding. Charlotte, are you and Shinta Tianyin going to get married? Tang Yuyin looked very surprised. It can't be so soon, right? Charlotte suddenly had the urge to kick Long Bing. Tang Buchuan muttered to himself a little nervously. Hey, why do people like to have flash marriages these days? According to a report by an authoritative organization, the divorce rate of flash marriages is as high as 80%. I really don't know what some people are thinking. How can they treat life's big events like child's play? Charlotte was speechless. A doctor suddenly walked over. Mr. Xia, Miss Shintu is awake. She wants to see you. You should go and take a look. Okay, I'll go now. Charlotte couldn't get away, so he followed the doctor. Looking at Charlotte's back, Long Bing's eyes dimmed slightly. There was an indescribable feeling in them. Tang Yuyan laughed. Other people don't understand you, Long Bing, but how can I not? Don't use Shinda Tianin to provoke me. Charlotte is getting engaged. Aren't you also very disappointed? Am I? Long Bing sneered. You should get a pair of glasses. Also, let me tell you, in our line of work, it's better to keep some feelings to yourself. If you really get together, you'll be harming the other party and the child. I've never thought about getting married, and I advise you to stop thinking about it. Our youth belongs to the country. Tang Yuyan's lips moved. She wanted to refute Long Bing's words, but she couldn't find the words. Tang Buchuan sighed. I say, will the two of you die if you don't quarrel when you see each other? Tang Yuyan and Long Bing rolled their eyes at Tang Buchuan. Charlotte walked to the door of the off-road vehicle. Shinda Tianin struggled to get up from the sofa. Her nerves were still under anesthesia, and she was still a little dizzy. She almost fell off the sofa. Charlotte quickly reached out and held her waist. Don't move. Just lie down. Charlotte climbed into the car. Shinda Tianin reached out and hugged Charlotte's waist. She rested her cheek on Charlotte's thigh. She didn't say anything, but her body language spoke louder than the words she had spoken all night. Charlotte gently stroked her silky hair and back. He comforted her. It's all in the past. It's okay. Don't be scared. Shinta Tianin looked up at Charlotte and smiled. I'm not scared. With you by my side, I'm not scared at all. Really? Charlotte didn't believe her. Okay. I was a little scared at the time, but I believe that you'll take me home. My man is the best and strongest man in the world. With me by your side, no one can hurt me, Shinta Tianin said. Charlotte smiled. No man would be unhappy to hear such a compliment, especially when it came from Shinta Tianin. I heard from the doctor that you got rid of those people, and they're all dead. Charlotte said again. Don't think about it. You won't like it, and I won't think about it. Shinta Tianin reached out and touched Charlotte's cheek. She avoided the small wound on his cheek and said with heartache, You're injured. I'll get the doctor to treat it for you. No need. It's all from the leaves of the reeds. I'll go back and treat it myself. Charlotte said. Shinta Tianin thought for a moment. Let's go to my house. I'll treat it for you. Your body is full of these small wounds. You can't treat them yourself. Charlotte nodded lightly. When they're done here, we'll go home. Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. He found that Shinta Tianin's finger had reached into the tear in his trousers and gently touched his wound. Does it hurt? Shinta Tianin hurriedly retracted her finger. Her cheeks were slightly red. The location of the wound was very sensitive. She didn't know why, but she was driven by curiosity and reached out to touch it. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Charlotte's mind was imagining the scene of Shinta Tianin treating his wound. Those imaginations made him feel a little hot. Then I'll touch it again? Charlotte was speechless. This seemed to be the pleasure of the boudoir. It just happened at the wrong time and place. At this time, Long Bing came over. She coughed. Our people have taken care of it. Do you want to take a helicopter or drive? Before Charlotte could make a decision, Shinta Tianin said, let's drive back. I don't want to take a helicopter. There were bound to be other people in the helicopter, but if they were to drive, there would only be two people, Charlotte and her. Charlotte gladly agreed. Okay, let's drive back. By the way, Long Bing, I ran a lot of red lights along the way. I also exceeded the speed limit on the highway. Can you help me erase the records? Long Bing said, No problem. I'll help you. If I want you to help me, you have to take it to heart. If you trick me, I'll deal with you. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Chapter 429. After returning to the capital, the first thing Charlotte did was to go back to the Thunder Horse military factory and lock up Princess Yomei. After confirming that she had the ability to make people go crazy and die forever, Charlotte did not dare to let her out casually. Then, he and Shinta Tianyin went to Humanity Hospital to visit Fu Mingmei. Fu Mingmei had already come out of the operating room, but she had not yet recovered from the anesthesia. Shinta Tianyin arranged for someone to take care of her, and then left the hospital with Charlotte. I think we should tell Mingmei's father. He should know about this, Charlotte said to Shinta Tianyin as they walked out of the hospital. Shinta Tianyin said, "Tell him tomorrow. You don't have to worry about it. I'll take care of it." Charlotte sighed. Fortunately, those people didn't want to kill her. Otherwise, I'm afraid she wouldn't be in this world anymore. Be careful in the future and bring more bodyguards when you go out. Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte's arm and said, "Well, I'll listen to you." She suddenly remembered something and said, "By the way, I'll call Gu Qin. I don't know if she's okay." Charlotte said, "No, her cell phone must be turned off." "It can't be. I told her to keep her phone on 24/7. She can't turn it off." Shinta Tianyin didn't believe it. Then she took out her cell phone and called Gu Qin, but Charlotte was right. Gu Qin's cell phone was turned off. Shinta Tianyin was an extremely smart woman. She seemed to realize something and said, "Gu Qin," Charlotte said. "She's from the CIB. She was trained by the CIB when she disappeared. She came back to you and helped you do things. She even helped you buy the former assets of the Gu family in order to gain your trust. This time, if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have been kidnapped, and Ming Mei wouldn't have been injured." A trace of shame flashed in Shinta Tianyin's eyes. After a moment of silence, he said, "You warned me a long time ago not to trust Gu Qin, but I still believed her. However, it's not that I don't trust your judgment. It's because I feel that I have the ability to suppress her, but I didn't expect." Charlotte smiled. "Forget it. It's all in the past. I'm afraid Gu Qin has already fled the country, and there's almost no chance for you to meet him again. Also, and Xiaoxian is also involved. You must be careful of her." Shinta Tianyin looked into Charlotte's eyes. "If he comes to hurt me, you'll beat him up, right?" Charlotte said no. "Huh?" Shinta Tianyin looked very surprised. Charlotte suddenly smiled and said, "Before he hurts you, I'll beat him up." Shinta Tianyin gently hit Charlotte with a hint of coquettishness. Charlotte grabbed her hand. "Tianyin, many people want my life and the things in my head. If you're with me, there will be a lot of unexpected dangers. In this case, are you still willing to be with me?" Shinta Tianyin glared at Charlotte. "Don't say such things. You're my fiancé. You're the man I'm destined to be with for the rest of my life. If I accept your proposal, it's equivalent to accepting your everything. No matter what dangers there are, we can't be separated." Charlotte's heart was moved. Shinta Tianyin suddenly kissed his lips and didn't let him continue. This kiss seemed to be the best answer. There was no need for any words. Many people stopped at the entrance of the hospital to watch, but Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte already treated them as if they didn't exist. The two had experienced too many twists and turns in the 2 years since they met and got engaged. Their feelings for each other had been suppressed. Once they got the chance to release it, why would they care about what the world thought? However, after all, they were in public. After the two calmed down, they left the hospital as if they were escaping. When they returned to Shinta Tianyin's home in the capital, Shun Turin had already fallen asleep. Shinta Tianyin didn't want to tell Shun Turin about this matter to avoid him worrying. This was also good. It saved him the trouble of explaining. When they went upstairs, Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte's hand. "Let's go to my room. I'll treat your wound." Charlotte was a little embarrassed and a little nervous, but this embarrassment and nervousness soon disappeared. He and Shinta Tianyin were already engaged. Their relationship was closer than his relationship with Liang Xiao. What was there to be embarrassed and nervous about going to her room and asking her to treat his wound? "I'll go get the medicine box. Wait for me," Shinta Tianyin said after leading Charlotte into the room. Charlotte said, "Then I'll take a bath first. I'm a little itchy." Shinta Tianyin smiled. "Then you can only use my bath towel and bathrobe. My dad is already asleep. I don't want to go to his room to get his bath towel and bathrobe for you." Charlotte was no longer embarrassed, but when he thought that he had to use a woman's bath towel and bathrobe, he felt embarrassed again. After Shinta Tianyin left, Charlotte entered the bathroom in the room. He didn't use the bathtub. He only used the shower head to wash the sweat and blood stains on his body, as well as the seeds and other dirty things in the grass. When he was taking a bath, he found that his body was full of small wounds caused by the serrated teeth on the leaves of the grass. There were small wounds on his face, neck, lower abdomen, legs, and even buttocks. Looking at the wound on his buttocks in the mirror, Charlotte frowned and said to himself, "Do I need Tianyin to help me deal with the wound here? Isn't that too embarrassing?" It was still embarrassing. Coming out of the bathroom, Charlotte put on Tianyin's bathrobe. It was pink and had a flower pattern. It was very fancy. This was not the most embarrassing thing for Charlotte. What made him most embarrassed was that he wanted to wear his underwear, but he felt that it was torn and dirty. Then the problem came. He could wear Tianyin's bathrobe, but he couldn't wear Tianyin's underwear, right? However, if he didn't wear it, there was another problem. When Tianyin was treating his wounds, he would definitely have to take off his bathrobe. However, if he took off his bathrobe, what else would he have underneath? There were some things that couldn't be hidden even with a large pile of grass. After thinking about it, he finally bit the bullet and went to Tianyin's bedside table to find a new pair of underwear that she hadn't worn before and put it on. It was lace and it was red. After dealing with the problem on his body, Charlotte sat on the bed and waited, but he waited for half an hour. He was a little puzzled. Could it be that there's no medicine box at home, and she went out to buy it? Then he smiled bitterly. Fortunately, it's just a small injury. If it's a big injury, I'll be dead after waiting for so long. Being alone in the room, it was inevitable for his imagination to run wild. After waiting for a few more minutes, Tianyin finally came back. She had actually taken a bath and was wearing a pure white bathrobe. Her black hair was scattered on her shoulders, and there were still some water droplets in between her hair. Her body smelled good, and her face seemed to have reapplied makeup. Her eyebrows were like a phoenix's, and her cherry lips were tender and rosy. Her face was like a carved jade plate, and she was as beautiful as a fairy. She was carrying a medicine box in her hand, and her eyes were bright. If she wore a nurse's uniform, she would definitely be the most beautiful nurse in the world. Charlotte couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. She was his woman, so beautiful that his heart was filled with happiness. Charlotte's reaction made Tianyin smile. She walked over and cut to the chase. "Take off your bathrobe. I'll treat your wound." Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses and untied his belt. Puffed, Tianyin suddenly covered her little mouth, and her waist was bent over from laughing. Only then did Xia Lei realize that what he had revealed was a red lace border. He should have told Tianyin first, so that she would be mentally prepared, but he forgot. "That, mine is torn and dirty," Charlotte explained awkwardly, "so I wore yours. You don't mind, right?" Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. "We're already husband and wife. What's there to mind about? If you want to wear it, I have many other colors and styles." Charlotte's face had already turned into the shape of a swastika. "It actually looks good on you." Tianyin laughed again. "Can you not mention it?" Charlotte smiled bitterly. "I'm embarrassed enough." Okay, I won't tease you anymore. I'll treat your wound." Tianyin opened the medicine box, took out a bottle of hydrogen peroxide, and sprayed it on the wound on Charlotte's body. The hydrogen peroxide pierced his flesh, and Charlotte grimaced in pain. After spraying it on the front, Tianyin said, "Lie on the bed. I'll spray the wound on your back." Charlotte lay on the bed, and his mind was in a mess, full of all kinds of messy imagination. Tianyin quickly sprayed the wound on his back and leg, then grabbed the red lace and pulled it down little by little. Charlotte suddenly became nervous. "Tianyin." Puff, puff. The hydrogen peroxide sprayed down. The burning pain came, and Charlotte snorted softly. He was forced to swallow the words he wanted to say. "Does it hurt?" Tianyin then used his hand to wipe the excess hydrogen peroxide around the wound. The correct way to do it was to wipe it with a cotton ball, but she chose to use her hand. A soft, boneless hand gently slid over, and came into contact with a sensitive part. Xiale immediately felt a 180-degree turn from pain to irrepressible excitement. He looked back at Shinta Tianin, only to find that Shinta Tianin, who was attached to take care of him, had exposed a large area of snow-white skin. The open collar of the bathrobe was useless, and his eyes were full of tenderness and fullness, extremely tempting, and made his heart tremble. For eyes looked at each other, and there was no sound in their eyes. Suddenly, two motionless people desperately rushed to each other and entangled with each other. More than 2 years of love, 700 to 800 days and nights, finally came to fruition tonight, and they were officially together. The passionate kiss started in the chaos, and also stopped in the chaos. That was because Charlotte thought of something, and he said nervously, "Tianin, is it your thing here?" Shinta Tianin hid her head in Charlotte's arms, not daring to look at him. "Idiot, it doesn't come every day. Yesterday was the last day." Charlotte cheered, and suddenly pressed her under his body. "You, be gentle." Shinta Tianin's voice was as soft as a mosquito's, and there was not a single part of her face that was not red. Her beautiful eyes were closed, but one could still see the infinite shyness in her eyes, shaming flowers and obstructing the moon. This, "be gentle," made Charlotte's soul fly to the 9 heavens. The night was long, and the night was deep, and a rose bloomed shyly outside the window. Chapter 430. A ray of sunlight shone in from the window, making the room even brighter. Charlotte slowly woke up. Shinta Tianin was not by his side, but her faint fragrance remained in the bed. This fragrance was like a rope, pulling him back to the time of last night, reliving those beautiful things. He couldn't help but smile, but then the smile froze because his waist was sore and his legs were weak. Women are fields, men are cows. Plowing once can still be vigorous and lively, but plowing twice, thrice. It's amazing that the cow didn't fall. Putting away his thoughts, Charlotte saw a brand new suit, shirt, and underwear on the bedside table. There was also a brand new pair of shoes under the bedside table. Even the socks were prepared, neatly folded in the leather shoes. She is really a careful woman. Charlotte couldn't help but smile again, full of happiness and peace. Isn't this the life he wanted? To have a happy and warm family, to have a beloved woman. At this moment, all of these belonged to him. Charlotte put on his clothes, shoes, and socks, and went out the door, but just happened to meet Shun Turin, who came out from another room. Shun Turin saw Charlotte coming out from Shinta Tianin's room, and suddenly froze for a moment, but quickly reacted. His face also showed a smile, and first greeted Charlotte. "Ahem, get up." Dad, you also got up." Charlotte was very embarrassed. The two men, the first words they said when they met in the morning were very funny. If he didn't get up, would he still be lying in bed? At this time, Shinta Tianin poked his head out from the stairway. "Dad, Lay, it's time for breakfast. I specially made porridge and side dishes. Come and eat." "Eat, eat." Shin Turin obviously didn't want to be embarrassed like this. As a father, the daughter he raised with great difficulty became someone else's woman. That kind of feeling was very sad and complicated, but it was also something that every father who raised a daughter must experience. And entrusting Shinta Tianin to Charlotte, Shin Turin was 100% willing. Therefore, that kind of sad mood quickly disappeared, replaced by a kind of relaxed and happy feeling. What else, as a father, could be more happy than his daughter finding a good husband? A dining table, 1 old and 2 young, 3 bowls of porridge, 2 side dishes, simple but full of the warm taste of home. "Today I will let Fu accompany me to Shaolin Temple. Let the master show you a good day." During the meal, Shun Turin happily said, "Dad." Shinta Tianin rolled his eyes at Shun Turin, but he couldn't hide the smile on his face. Shinta ignored Shinta Tianin. He looked at Xia Lei and probed, "Lazy, what do you think?" Charlotte hurriedly said, "I have no opinion of. I'll just follow Dad arrangement." "Dad of, Shun of Lei Charlotte of more of Lei, and you of Lei of saying of you of you is." You're smiling, and you're saying we're bullying you? You can't wait to get married. Shin Tu-run teased his daughter. Dad, Shinta Tianyin blushed. In the outside world, she was the cold and elegant queen of Yinqian. But at home, she was a gentle and meticulous woman. Charlotte only realized this after they became husband and wife, and he felt that it was very precious. After breakfast, Charlotte sent Shinta Tianyin to the Heaven's Wings building. As soon as he stopped the car, he saw an off-road vehicle with a military license plate waiting for him in a parking space, and Long Bing sitting in the driver's seat. Shinta Tianyin also saw the car and Long Bing sitting in the driver's seat. There was a hint of worry between her brows. Charlotte said softly, I originally wanted to help you pick a few bodyguards, but Long Bing is here. I'm afraid I can only do it next time. Shinta Tianyin said, It's okay. In fact, you don't have to pick. Do you remember the 4 people that Uncle Fu invited back from Yimbian? I plan to ask Uncle Fu to invite them back again and let them protect me. Charlotte, of course, remembered those 4 people. They all had the experience of being mercenaries in Southeast Asia. They were not afraid of death and were loyal enough. Hearing what Shinta Tianyin said, he was also relieved. Well, I know. Park Taiji, Kim Jinwan, Park Kamlai, and Kim Dahu are 4 people. They're not bad. I can rest assured that they will protect you. However, even with the 4 of them protecting you, you have to be careful. If anything happens, contact me immediately. Even if I'm not by your side, I can send someone to protect you. Well, I will be careful. Shinta Tianyin got out of the car. Charlotte also got out of the car and accompanied her to the front hall of the Heaven's Wings building. Long Bing did not get out of the car. She just looked at Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte from the window. When they walked down the steps of the front hall, Shinta Tianyin suddenly stopped. She reached out to hold Charlotte's waist and kissed Charlotte's lips. Her movements were natural and comfortable, with an indescribable sense of beauty. This kiss shocked many of the employees of the Wanxiang group who came to work. In their eyes, Shinta Tianyin was a moving iceberg. She was noble and cold to the extreme, yet she was such a woman. She actually kissed a man in front of so many people. Although they already knew that this man was her fiancé, this was still not in line with her style as a queen. After a full minute, Shinta Tianyin let go of Charlotte and said gently, Be careful. Charlotte nodded. Okay. Shinta Tianyin turned to leave, but deliberately glanced at Long Bing, who was sitting in the brave SUV. In fact, the kiss just now was deliberately done for Long Bing to see. He is mine. Long Bing smiled bitterly and avoided Shinta Tianyin's declaration of sovereignty look. Charlotte walked over and came to the window. If there is anything, just give me a call. There is no need to come in person. Long Bing said, I also walked from home to the station. Mr. Shi asked me to take you. I thought that you would definitely send Shinta Tianyin to the company, so I came here to wait for you. In fact, I came a few minutes earlier. What else did Mr. Shi say? Charlotte asked. Let's go. Won't you know when we go to the station? Long Bing looked in the direction of the Heaven's Wings building and suddenly smiled. What's wrong? You just got married and you are so attached to each other. Are you reluctant to part with me? Ahem. I will go get the car. Charlotte didn't want to talk about these personal topics with her, so he turned and left. Long Bing sighed and started the car. The underground headquarters of 101 floors. Sherborin handed a cup of tea to Ling Hao, and his tone was quite polite. Mr. Ling, if there is anything, just give me a call. Why do you have to come in person? Is it because of what happened last night? Ling Hao took a sip of tea. Mr. Shi, this time I really came for what happened last night. Did Charlotte submit the report? Sherborin frowned. That kid, I asked him to write it last night, but he went to Shinta Tianyin's house to spend the night. Beauty was a source of trouble. Youth was a hindrance. I guess that kid didn't even write a word. Ling Hao said, Mr. Shi, this is unusual. If it is not handled well, it will cause big trouble. This report, it said that it needs to be read in person. When will he come? Probably soon, Sherborin said. I have asked Long Bing to bring him here. Ling Hao smiled bitterly. This kid, I admit, he has made a great contribution to our country, but he is definitely a troublemaker. Wherever he goes, there will be trouble. In Russia, a dozen gunmen came to kill him. He was just engaged to Shinatianin, and someone kidnapped Shinatianin. After a pause, he said, Mr. Sure, what do you think? My opinion? Sure Boren was stunned for a moment, and tentatively said, Mr. Ling, what do you mean? Well, I'll be frank. I mean what happened last night. Sure Boren thought for a moment and said, Then I'll tell you my opinion. I think the U.S. already knows what we are studying, and they can't sit still. Think about it. Once we crack the secret of ancient alloy, our material technology will lead the world. Then there will be innovation in the field of engines, fighter jets, and ships. Once we lose our military superiority, what else can the U.S. use to block our country's development? Yes, I think so. It must have something to do with ancient alloy. Ling Hao was silent for a moment. I think so too, but I always feel that there may be something else. Xiaolei, I really can't see through this person. What do you want to say, Mr. Ling? Nothing. Ling Hao obviously had something in his mind, but he didn't want to say it. Sherborin said, Mr. Ling, I know you are the one who secretly observed Charlotte. I don't object to your behavior. After all, you have your authority, but I also think it's not necessary. Xiaolei might have some secrets, but which one of us doesn't? What I like is his character and his contribution to this country. If you go through all the things he has done, can you find anything that he has done to harm the interests of the country? Not even one. Ling Hao chuckled. All right, boss, sure, you're starting to protect your son again. I didn't mean any harm in my observation. It's just a formality. Don't get mad at me. While they were talking, the door of the office was knocked. That's all. Don't talk anymore. Ling Hao said. Sherborin nodded and said in a loud voice, Come in. Longbing opened the door and led Charlotte in. Mr. Sure, Mr. Ling, Charlotte smiled and greeted them. Sherborin looked unhappy. I asked you to write the report. Have you written it? Oh, I forgot. I'll write it now. Charlotte didn't forget about it. But last night was such a good time. He wouldn't write a report. Sherborin glared at Charlotte. Boy, many heroes in ancient times died under the skirt of women. Xiang Yu is one of them. Do you want to be one of them? What kind of metaphor is this? Charlotte and Longbing coughed dryly to show the presence of a woman. Sherborin stared at her. What are you still doing here? Why don't you take Charlotte to write the report? Yes. Longbing nudged Charlotte. Go to my office. Okay, let's go to your office. Charlotte said. Sherborin said, I'll ask someone to prepare an office for you. You are the gold medal consultant of 101 innings. How can you not have a direct office? Oh, by the way, do you need a female secretary? I'll get you 2 beautiful young ones from the army. Uff. Charlotte bit his lower lip hard to stop himself from laughing. Sherborin probably didn't think of him as a hero like Xiang Yu. He probably thought of him as Shimin Qing. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.